Good morning or evening.
Morning. Oh my God, my voice is gone.
It's just still getting started. It's just getting warmed up, right?
I just woke up like 10 minutes ago.
Oh, you're fantastic. Thank you for your help.
And where are you from?
That's
I'm,
for you. That's for you, Morgan.
I was gonna say, is it for me? I'm from Pennsylvania. But I'm living in Charlotte, North Carolina now.
Nice.
Mhm.
And how do you know Mr. Yancey?
Because of Robin, actually. I met him once. We got ice cream. Yeah.
Sweet.
Didn't I buy
Sweet. Yeah.
I bought him that ice cream. I remember.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
Yeah, you did. And he loves it. He used to say, my middle name is Discount Joe. Sometimes he'd say, my middle name is Freebie. Or he'd say, feed me because you need me.
That's funny.
Silly rhymes. Morgan helped with putting the photos and videos together, Amy. So she took a lot of time off my plate. I wouldn't have been able to do it the way she did it, and
Nice.
I'm stoked.
Yeah, her generation's better at that stuff than mine.
I mean, it wasn't easy.
Yeah,
I had I mean, it was easy doing it, but then sending it to her was the hard part. I don't know why it was so hard.
that's
Yeah, big files sometimes don't want to send in all one.
Yeah, and well, if it's too big, it's hard to send.
Right. I just use Google for everything. And there's a Google Slides that's very much like PowerPoint.
Right.
And then the owner, whoever it is, the person who's writing it or the person who's reading it can access it from their own device. You don't even have to like send. It's just you've invited them, they're now a part of it. So that's my teacher trick.
Yeah, I knew there was that option too, but I already started on like just a regular because I already had the PowerPoint um
No
downloaded.
problem.
So I
Yeah.
was like, well, let me see if I could just send it to her. At least she got it open, so that's good.
Good, good. What time are you showing that, Robin? Or don't you know?
throughout. If it goes the way I'm trying, I was trying to practice it, but there's only so much you can practice when you have the only screen live. But
Are the
throughout,
pictures
this much.
the pictures still going on their own?
Yeah, totally.
Okay, because I tried to set it up, yeah, like that way.
Yeah, it came out great. Um, let me see. I'm gonna try and play it right now since it's just in because it's what we're doing. We'll do this one. I have it pulled up also a couple different ways so that theoretically um, I can like lean into it if it like crashes on one that I can go to the other and see if it changes or if I need to push it on. Oh, I didn't push it at all.
Oh, Keynote.
Yeah, it dropped it in Keynote on my computer. So I have it both open in Keynote and I have it open on the web as well.
Oh my God, I love that it's right behind you too.
I can't see what you see, so I'm gonna trust that.
What we're seeing, Robin, is the little windows off to the side, but your picture is like in the bottom right corner.
Am I
I'll send
small
it to
enough?
you.
I
So
need.
all his pictures are like to your left shoulder.
Okay, that's what I was.
You are mostly small enough,
Okay.
actually. to like not completely block the pictures. I just sent you a text of what I'm seeing.
Oh, cool. Thanks.
But
Okay.
I don't know if you want that. I don't know if you
I
Yeah.
don't even know what feature that is that it has you in two places.
Yeah, it sounds
It's
fancy. It's
a
a fancy
setting in
feature.
Zoom. All right. So I'm going to turn us all off for a minute and then I'll kick us back on, okay? And I'll just let this slideshow play for us for a minute. Well, I am going to just make a setting change so that people can come on without us having to be interrupted. So bear with me 1 second, I'll do that and then we'll start. Okay, so I can't do that part, but that's okay. Good morning. I already said good morning to a couple of you. Hi, Anne. And Tori, hi. I have everyone muted for a second, uh, and I will unmute us shortly. But just because people might be jumping on, just to keep it from being random noises, I'm going to let that ride for a minute. So I'm going to start with opening in prayer because losing a human from this earth doesn't have to be the end of their story. It's really their beginning, even though it's the end of our chapter with them. And I know for me, literally, my faith is all that helps when selfishly I lose such a good friend. And I have tissues. I hope you do too. God, I'm coming to you today and I'm asking for all of you. I'm asking that the Holy Spirit would speak for me, that you would be my strength, that you would honor my friend, that you would remove the words that I say that are sometimes harsh or direct, and that if they are harsh or direct, that they're received from the place that they're intended, which is love and truth. I thank you and I praise you that you've given me Jesus Christ as my comforter, my friend, and I pray you would sit here with me this morning. And I come to you at the foot of your throne as our Father in heaven, our creator of all life. And I just come in awe and glory. And as the scripture says, holy, holy, holy is your name. And I thank you that I know from my relationship with Norbert that he knew you and that he was secure in you. I appreciate that over the years that I've known him, his faith and how he communicated it changed from being a little shy to talk about it to asking questions about the cross and about Jesus. And I thank you that he just regularly checked in about Jesus died for my sins, and that he talked about his mom raising him Catholic and his dad being Protestant and made jokes about it, and he could have fun in this world, but still had you at his heart and at his core. Thank you for who he is as Norbert and who you are as our Father in heaven. In Jesus' name, amen. Ooh, and now I'm going to pause for a second and make sure that we invite everyone in. I have to do that, I think, for a little bit. I don't know if I can turn that off. So all that are coming in now, we have everyone muted to start here, just to have when people come on it not be random noises, and then we'll keep moving. And I will probably say some of the same things over and over again, because I was trying to design this in a way that, because it's not the best time zones for so many of us, not me, but for most, that we can come in and out as we need to. And this way it doesn't disrupt, but it can be a blessing. So please do use the chat. I will try and keep it up. And then if you guys that are not speaking at any one time can also try to keep it up so that we can acknowledge chat things. On that note, I will say that if I'm in the middle of saying something or someone else is, please know that I have a little piece of paper and a clock next to me to help me to pause periodically, to specifically address anything from the comments, to specifically address any hands raised. Please feel free to use your reaction emojis or your hand raising also to get our attention. Oh, good morning. I see your chat. Thank you. And I see another participant to let in. That's probably going to be the hardest part of the beginning of this. I apologize. Okay. Other kind of notes besides that we're all coming in quietly. We're going to use the reactions in the chat until we get like a good settled in spot here. And that I'll be pausing to acknowledge periodically. So if it seems like it's being a minute, just know that I am going to stop periodically, because really for me, this is more interactive than maybe any other service that I've been a part of, because Norbert did have such a full and dynamic life and so many people. And my favorite thing about Norbert was all his stories that would be considered literally fantastical if you didn't know him, to know that they were not made up and fabricated, they were real. And then you add in his jokester quality, and then you had to wonder if maybe they were real. The other kind of rule of the day is that this is a place of love, that our faith and our love for Norbert is what drives this conversation and this event, I guess is what I'll call it. I don't want to say memorial, because I feel like it's truly a party, a first stop on a train that is celebrating Mr. Yancey. That we're all friends, as Norbert used to often say, strangers are just friends you haven't met yet. And just also asking that we give people their own space to grieve however they want to, if that comes up. Crying doesn't always need comforting. Sadness isn't always a bad thing. It's just a part of our process, and we each have our own, and we're all entitled to it, which is not a word I use very often. And then the last kind of housekeeping is just myself, an apology. So I will be squirming because I don't normally sit, and I'm sitting today, but my standing desk is literally blocked by the file cabinet that keeps Norbert's stuff in it. I've needed so many pieces of paper the last year, more than I haven't needed this much paper on him since 11 years ago, but it's all blocking my standing desk where I'm more comfortable. So I will be squirmy, also asking for grace with tech because I can't figure out how to do some of the things I want to do. So we're just gonna, again, go with that intent that the important part is our words and remembrance and sharing about Norbert and not mind so much the tech. And then also to say we do have some audio, some video of Norbert to share. And I know that we got the volume as loud as we could. So it might be that it's not hearable. And I will be able to, after this, if it's not already posted, to post things on his Facebook page and or YouTube that I can link to here so that in the future you can hear it with a higher quality on your own audio if it doesn't come through here. So I'll pause there since we don't have participants waiting, and I will ask, is there anyone that wants to say anything right away, that wants to start off with maybe just a comment about your timing today so that we can make sure we get to you if you have comments? Things like that. I'll mention the chat. Again for our hands. And I can click to unmute anyone. All right. And is that you raising your hand? Okay, let me push you down. Okay, and you can unmute yourself anytime. So you don't want to be unmuted now? You can hit unmute. You can unmute yourself. Okay, so try one more time. Click to unmute you.
Got it. Okay, great. Now it worked. Thank you. I'm Ann Teitelman, and I first met Mr. Yancey when he was in his early 20s, when I was 6 years old. My dad was an entertainment journalist in Chicago, where we lived, and he made a trip to New York City for business. And when he came back, next thing I knew, Mr. Yancey was living with us. He invited him to come back, and he met him on the streets of New York singing arias near the New York Public Library, and thought he was such an incredible performer. He wanted to support him and promote his career. And he invited him to live with us and to come to Chicago and do that. So my sister remembers more than I do from that time. She's 6 years older, but she remembers times around playing music on the record player, and us, and him singing along and us dancing around. And some of the times those were like famous Italian popular arias like Funiculi Funicula. So it's possible he learned some of his repertoire at our house when I was growing up. And then I grew up, and and only when I retired was I starting to reminisce about my growing up years, and I wanted to find him. And my sister remembered his last name. I didn't remember his last name. And we looked him up a few years ago and found this incredible story emerging on social media about what an incredible individual he'd been over years, performing at Ghirardelli Square and around the world. And I was able to, through the Facebook, have a Zoom call with him a few years ago, through Matt Pell, who facilitated that. And that was wonderful. And then about a year ago, Matt emailed me, because I checked in with Matt periodically about how he was doing, and we corresponded. Norbert and I corresponded a little bit through the mail. And Matt contacted me a year ago and said that he was moving to Pennsylvania, and I live in Philadelphia. So I was elated that about that. And about a year ago now, he moved to Pennsylvania to be looked after by Robin, who has, by the way, done an amazing job, and who has done so many things for Norbert to help him and support him in so many ways. And I was able to go up and visit him and saw him for the first time since I was 6 years old. And that was just amazing. And he's such a wonderful, warm and human being, and so creative and so alive. And it was just such a gift to me to be able to see him again. And then about a month later, Robin and Norbert came to my house in Philadelphia. And Norbert after lunch, sat on the couch and played his guitar in his full voice for about 45 minutes. And even though he had been more forgetful over the past several years, he remembered the music and the words to so many songs in many different languages. And it was just such an amazing thing to hear him. And he was playful and funny and cracked jokes, and like he always did, and made up little ditties. And it was amazing. And then after that, we drove around Philadelphia, and he wanted to go to Sharon Hill, which is where he grew up, the town where he grew up, which is right on the edge of Philadelphia. So we went there, went down the street where he grew up. And it was nice to be able to do that with him and Robin. And then in the past year, I've been going up to visit him periodically, and we've been exchanging letters and phone calls. Anyway, it's just been such a wonderful gift to me to reconnect with him after all these years. As I said, my father was a promoter of Norbert, and wanted to make sure he got recognition for who he was. And I think my father's talking to me because he's telling me that I should try to preserve Norbert's legacy. So I've been trying to document as much as I can about his life, and I've contacted the Smithsonian, and they said they would help me find an archive where we can put stories and artifacts about his life. So if anyone wants to contact me, I'd be happy to get any photos or video or any stories you have about him. And I'll put my email in the chat. Thank you for listening.
While we're in this space, is there anyone else who would like to share right away, or we can kind of go on to the next story that I have here? And then I know someone came on, I don't know if you were popping back on or you were here originally, but I just wanted to say again that everybody came in muted, but if you can either raise your hand or pop in the chat while I wait to see that communication that you want to be unmuted, I will answer, how many years did he busk at Ghirardelli from the chat? So because I met Norbert after there was already the effects of Alzheimer, but it was purely with executive function and some of the very, very long-term memories, he would just say many, many years. But on his Facebook page, I'm going to pop off and grab something. I'll be right back. On his Facebook page last night, I posted 2 books that I found. I don't know if you can see these, but they're on the Facebook page. One is called The Streets of San Francisco, and the other one is called San Francisco, A Sunset Pictorial. And so these are on his Facebook page, so they can be referenced there if you can't see it with my weird little camera action happening. But these books, one was posted as 1976, and then the Sunset one was 1969, and that was the second publication. So it was earlier than that. I have stories from people as early as 1964, but nothing documented to give that evidence. So that is an idea of how long he busked in San Francisco in general. And then from Norbert specifically, I can share that he didn't always busk at Ghirardelli. When he first got to San Francisco, he was closer to Fisherman's Wharf. He did some time closer to Union Square. And eventually, as the busking landscape changed and the city required permits, and Norbert was one of the people who chose to pay for a permit so that he could continue to do this for a living, he eventually claimed his spot at Ghirardelli. Another kind of fun fact about Ghirardelli, which I'm not sure how many people know about, Ghirardelli has the upper level where they have that courtyard area, and they invited Norbert up to there. And he did perform in that upper level for a period of time. He couldn't remember how long, but he laughed and joked about what a sham it was, because while Ghirardelli got the benefit of his performing, he actually didn't get as many tips, and this was how he made a living. So he made the executive decision as the CEO of Norbert Yancey Street Performer and popped his booty downstairs where he started and claimed back his space and stayed there. And yes, the 3 generations in your family, I hear so many stories about, oh, my dad took me there, or the dad didn't take him there, but when the kid goes to show the dad Norbert, he's like, oh yeah, I've been watching him for years. So it's really fun to see that it literally has been many, many generations for Norbert. And I don't see any hands up. I'm gonna scroll the camera views in case there's a physical hand. So I'm gonna keep going. A couple people just came in. You will hear me repeat this a few times. Thank you for being here. I'm having everybody come in muted just so as we come and go, we don't interrupt whoever's storytelling at the time. And please use the reaction buttons, the chat. And I think there's a raise your hand feature in order for me to know that you want to come off mute and tell the story. And just to say, if we are in the middle of something I haven't acknowledged you yet, just know that I will stop periodically and check. So if I'm not multitasking very well or missing something for my attention, I will pause periodically between my little agenda and my clock to check in on you and make sure you're good and make sure you have an opportunity, because I am the most excited about your stories. So for now, I will go on to my, the next thing I kind of wanted to share, because not a lot of people know who I am. So my name's Robin Melendez. I was Robin Kesno when Mr. Yancey and I met. I was living in Northern California. So I was about 40 minutes north on 101 up in the Santa Rosa area. I also, like Norbert, was born in Pennsylvania. So that when we met and connected more deeply was one of the fun things we saw as a parallel, like why we were hanging out together and why we connected so well is because we both were from Pennsylvania from birth, but neither of us stayed there very long. Norbert obviously went loads of places that we'll talk about over this time we have together today. But for me, I left Pennsylvania. I was in Maryland actually first, born in Pennsylvania, family moved all over, mostly Maryland and England. And then I left Maryland and my family home when I was 15 to California, brought there by some other family, but then stayed when those connections kind of eroded within the first couple of years. So I loved that California was a place where I could go outside. I didn't come from a family of active people or outdoorsy people, but I wanted to be that. And it was very easy to do when the temperature is what Northern California is. And if you know the Santa Rosa Healdsburg, Sonoma County area. It is a beautiful bubble in the world. So I was blessed to be there. Moving there from 15, I would say about 17, my life got a little chaotic and I really lost a bunch of support and I had a lot of struggles. So around 17 years old, I really started studying different faiths. And my friends, in hindsight, I can tell you who are Christian, when I became a Christian, called me a little Paul because I was open to every faith except Christianity. Christianity was what I'd seen growing up around me. We weren't regular go to church people. It was more like mom begrudgingly dragging everybody. And I just felt like we say we're doing one thing, but we're actually doing another. I guess in hindsight, I could say I was ready for the deeper message of literally the message of Christianity is I am broken, hypocrisy filled, accidentally a sinner, and unavoidably just wrong when it comes to the beautiful morality and integrity compared to Jesus Christ and what could be heaven on earth when you go back to Genesis. But I didn't know that then. So I just thought these people are all fake. I want everybody but them. And California is an environment that, just to speak generically, kind of nurtured that and allowed me to explore all the other faiths and didn't care that I was so anti-Jesus, basically. But I'll say that as I was operating a business and I learned in business, the people that were coaching me, that were my masterminds and my mentors, they had, how do I want to say, they had tactics that I didn't find to be in good integrity. And it started to feel icky interacting with them. And over time, this is over many years, I eventually figured out that the Christian people who were Christians and also business coaches were running their businesses and giving coaching with values that I appreciated, things that made me feel good about how I was showing up in the world. And because of that, I slowly started learning about the Christian faith. I didn't mean to, but my accountant was a Christian and he invited me to a Bible study. So I was studying the Bible for 5 years before I ever came to my own faith in Christ. I used a book called Business by the Book to help me learn how to hire well and fire well and to just operate with just the beyond reproach level of kindness and how to apologize when my real true self came out that needed a little more Jesus, right? And I just really enjoyed that space. And through that, I did become a Christian. It was in June that year that I became a Christian. Within 1 month, I was going to a church called City Impact. And City Impact is an organization that, I'm going to see if I can share it, a little video. City Impact is a church, but it was more than a church. It was an organization where I could work in a food kitchen. I could work in a rescue mission. I could change how I interacted with the community on behalf of the church. They had social work, they had medical work. I'm not a medical work person. Some people think I'm social work because of my engagement with Mr. Yancey, but none of that is true. Instead, I chose to work in the rescue mission. I figured at that time, I was like, well, I know the Bible talks about one day of a week being about a tenth. And I knew the Bible talked about tithing. And I wanted to tithe, but I also knew it said not to have debt. My response to that was to say, well, I'm going to give the 1 day a week since I financially am not in a good place. And I'm going to go ahead and volunteer 1 day a week. I have my own business. I have the schedule flexibility. This is what I'm going to do. And I'll just quickly share, if it plays, this video. I hope that you can hear it okay.
Over to Mason Street, less than 1 square mile, 37,000 residents living in about 305 buildings, and many of them are low-income apartments and SROs, which stands for single resident occupancy. Many people, I'm telling you this, have given up on the Tenderloin District.
And so growing up in the Tenderloin, I saw a lot of blood and a lot of physical abuse.
I ran away from home when I was 16. And so I was in the city 29 years, just living on the streets, homeless. I started drinking alcohol. And so that's what started me using drugs.
Over the next few years, the drugs just got a little heavier, and basically everyone I knew was involved in it one way or the other, whether it was drinking or pills or heroin, coke, just different stuff.
I was hanging out with kids that lived on Coke Street, and I started selling myself on the streets, just trying to keep a roof over my head.
Felt just completely alone. You have literally nothing, just filthy from head to toe. And really just looking at it like, where else am I going to go?
People want out. They don't know how.
I was just hungry for anything. My soul was so longing for something real. But I remember just calling out to God and saying, God, if you're for real, can you just show me?
Wants to pursue that one person at any cost. I'm talking about right now, there's someone waking up in the Tenderloin saying, God, have you forgotten about me? God, are you there? God, are you real? Can you remind me? They're laying their heads at night saying, God, no one cares for me in this community. Are you even real? Do you hear my prayer? Let me tell you this. It's the darkest places that God shines the brightest.
One of the nurses, I remember when I first got here, she went to see me waiting on the line at the rescue mission, and she was kind of grabbing, what are you doing out here? Get in here. And I was like, how can we help you out? You know, really just kind of sat me down over the chair. I'm like, this is what we have to offer. Like, what do you need?
I remember it was my 18th birthday, and Pastor Chris and Corey came by and knocking my door, just even to say hi, you know, and just to pray.
It was just like the phone calls, you know, somebody cared other than he wasn't trying to get anything from me, you know? He was just trying to encourage me. All the time on the street, I never knew anybody that didn't want something from me. And, and Ralph, he didn't want anything from me.
When I was in the building, I could have just, you know, kept isolating myself, but they stepped out and they never gave up in visiting.
There was something that really stuck out, the spirit about them, you know, just even in the midst of where they're at, they're just staying joyful, serving, helping people. It just seemed like a good place to stay.
I think the one thing that Today Impact has done that impacted my life was the genuine love of Christ in and through them. I did not feel like I was a stranger. I felt like I was at home, like Sergeant Mike say. Like, they're like my mom and dad.
And that's why I'm here, because I want to encourage the people that I grew up with. If God can change me, He can change anybody.
What does it mean to reimagine church? Reimagine church is to rethink what church should look like according to Scripture. Can you picture a church that impacts the community so much that we are solving community issues that no one has yet solved? That's what we're going for. Picture everyone in the Tenderloin accounted for and taken care of. That's what I'm talking about. Where we truly love our neighbors and we know them by name.
Oh, thank you. So I wanted to share that for a couple of reasons. First, let me clarify that I do not have any affiliation with City Impact. I'm not a fundraiser for them. I'm not whatever for them, but on our GoFundMe for Norbert, as we pay for the final arrangements, the things that because he was on Social Security, I couldn't save money for him in good integrity. I would have had to hide it or whatever, do something where the morality is a little bit questionable. I couldn't even, he was too old already to get one of those bank issued couple $1,000, pay for your final expenses life insurance policy. So planning for his passing was something that I had on my list of things to do, interacting with Norbert from the beginning. And there was nothing that we could do that would be in alignment with what we were supposed to be doing. I certainly didn't want to get another human in trouble for doing it the wrong way, or certainly not have his income cut off. So he had known that he was in the service, but he didn't remember why and how long. So we looked at the VA route. I'll share more about that in a minute. But for his final expenses, which is the only thing we needed help with from a financial perspective at this point, we've had so much generosity to help him with the things. And I've been able to connect him to, like I said, the medical services and the Social Security, not because I'm magical, but just being a human who helped him from a project management level. When he and I met shortly after I saw that video, I went to City Impact. I was volunteering in the rescue mission, and Norbert Yancey was one of, I would say, about 4 or 5 people who stood out to me that I really look forward to seeing every week. You know his laughter. How can you not be drawn in? You know his little quips. He was doing them there, and he was enjoying his free meals. He would talk regularly about feed me because you need me. And my middle name is Freebie, or they call me Discount Joe. He had so many good stories like that. So I share City Impact so that if you did donate, or if you're intending to donate to his final expenses, that once they're covered, anything that's remaining, we're going to drop it right over to them. Norbert certainly benefited from their services before I even met him. And then because of my working there and him being there and God's perfect alignment of timing and place, he and I got connected because of City Impact. So that's why I shared that video, and to just kind of share where I was coming from. So I met Norbert through City Impact, like within the first month and a half of me being a Christian, where I finally said, okay, I'm in, I get this, I believe it, I'm full in, it's not a fairy tale, and I want to live this. So it started with thinking about the tithe, which turned into donating my time, which turned into meeting Norbert. And I will tell you, I have always personally had a heart for seniors. When I met him, I was working in an animal business where I specifically did animal hospice. Part of doing animal hospice was I learned and was volunteering with human hospice as well, because grief is grief. And some people don't like me to say this, but the truth is, whether you're mourning a dear, beloved, unconditional love of a pet that you've had, or your grandmother who brought you in and cared for you, the pain is equal. Each of us feels how we feel. And I love that people all have stories. And I think the seniors in our lives don't get asked questions often enough so that we can get those stories from them and that richness. So that was the heart that I had coming into this. And then now when I'm speaking to someone briefly and they don't get to hear this whole long story, I just joke / seriously say the Bible says orphans and widows. And so many people do take up the gauntlet for the orphans, but somebody's got to do the widows. And while Norbert was not a widow by marriage, he did have a longtime partner that had passed away. He couldn't remember what year by the time that I met him, but he lived with her for quite a few years. And because of some of the circumstantial evidence, like his medical records and when he kind of stopped going to the doctor, his housing records, and when he started having trouble paying his rent and staying organized, I wonder if she was already caring for him at those early stages of Alzheimer's until she was gone. He did remember that she had passed due to breast cancer ultimately. And it was the only kind of thing in his life. If you know Norbert, you know he was wildly optimistic. Even sad things, he'd find the other side of that coin and find something happy and positive about it, and a reason to smile and to shine, because you never know, and be grateful. He had affirmations written all over the front and inside of his wallet constantly. Oh my gosh, you should see his apartment. I'll see if I can put some pictures on Facebook. He would cut out this, just like when you make a vision board and you cut out things out of magazines and put it on your vision board. He had them all over his apartment constantly. I actually had a hard time getting him to not do that so we wouldn't break the rules of the apartment and him get in trouble some different times, because he was so adamant about that. But over the course of digging in, when Norbert got an illegal eviction notice and trying to fight that, figuring out he didn't have an ID. He couldn't get an ID because he didn't have a birth certificate. He didn't have income because he could no longer carry his stuff out to Ghirardelli. He was busking till right before I met him. But when I met him, he was unable to walk. He was using a walker, and one of the first doctor's appointments we went to within a few weeks of us really getting deeply connected. So when I say met, in this case, I'm meaning once we started working together deeply, not just our Friday meetings. It went from seeing him at Fridays at the rescue mission to 2 to 3 times a week, going to this attorney to fight the eviction, going to this nonprofit to try and get him help with his rent, going to this place to try and get him on Social Security, figuring out all the logistics of that. And if you know working with the government, you know that crap took a very long time. The red tape to get your ID when you don't have an ID to prove that you are who you say you are was quite the circus. And at the same time, I'm chasing that. He said he was a vet, but we can't find any records of him. By the way, they were burned in St. Louis when there was a big fire for the back end of the alphabet. So nothing was simple with this man for me personally, but thankfully he was simple. And what I mean by that is he was just happy. That was the default setting. The only time he gave me trouble was when he wanted to eat sweets, and I really wanted to push him not to because I was trying to play the long game, and he was more concerned about the taste of that apple pie that he tricked the nurse into giving them double servings of. So really caring for him was a piece of cake. It was more like me versus the structure that supported him, not me versus him. That is the only hard part. He was simple in that he was easy to love and absolutely loving. I will say that when he and I first met, we did get an Alzheimer's diagnosis right away within 2015. And that was at UCSF. And man, let me tell you, those doctors over there were insane. He had a whole army of people supporting them. And of course, he was speaking in all 4 of the languages from Switzerland to the poor nurse that was working with him. She was blown away. And then he would not let her go. Once he got her attention, he would not leave that woman alone in the best way. So he had a buddy there. But it was only the executive function is what they said he was having trouble with at the time. So he was still his chipper self. And even though he was losing some dates, he would have these moments of lucidity. And my phone was filled with notes every Friday when I hung out with him. He'd mention a name of a sibling, but he didn't remember how many he had. So I just started writing them down as he said them. And over the years was able to like regurgitate back to him the things that he shared, which would then trigger even more memories. So really my piecing together of Norbert, I didn't know who he was when I met him. He was a gentleman that I'd met at the rescue mission that I loved. And I got to know him through this. And I put up the Facebook page to try and find his family and to at least be present when I was sending letters to where I heard somebody live that might have been related to him and I didn't get responses. I thought, let me just put this up so that if his family goes looking for him, they can see him. And what happened instead, I mean, that also happened, but that took about 8 years. But what happened instead was all of his amazing friends that he's made over the many, many decades. This includes people abroad, it includes people in San Francisco, of course, and the surrounding areas. Lots and lots and lots of people reaching out and sharing how they had met Norbert. His nicknames were Happy and Dynamite. He was a 5th degree black belt in numerous martial arts. He taught physical fitness in the park regularly. That was another way that he made money. None of it was stuff that paid into the system to give him a nice fat pension, but you know, he made it do, and he was happy with how he made his living. He just had so much life. So based on that, I'm gonna see if I can look around for a raised hand or a comment. If I would love to hear another story, and I know we have a poem, if that's a possibility, a little something. If we're ready for that, let me know. All right, I'm going to mute myself so you can speak clear.
Morning, is that me you're waiting for?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I can't say that I knew Norbert well. I can say that, you know, growing up, he was always there on the corner singing, and as a child, I was embarrassed to be called out, which of course he never failed to do. And it was great seeing him interact with my dad, and then taking my own children there. And he just never changed. I mean, he looked like the same person, you know, over the decades. I left California, 91. And over the years, I kind of just got curious about it. I wonder if he's still there. I wonder if, you know, and so I started Googling and finding information, and ultimately led me to this Facebook page. Robin had said that he enjoyed getting mail, and so I started to write a poem that I was going to mail to him. I kind of got stalled on it, and then he passed away. But I would like to share that with the group this morning. And my mother said I was a writer, not a speaker, so forgive me. So this was for Norbert. From the streets of San Francisco, a voice called out to me, the understated gentleman, guitar upon his knee. For young and old, he had a smile contagious from the start. You'd never know the brilliant mind that hid behind that heart. Approaching Ghirardelli, you could hear the flow of rhymes as from his chair he taunted folk for dollars and for dimes. From every land the people came, and in their tongue he'd sing. With tilted hat adorned with pins, what laughter he would bring. As buskers come and buskers go, not one could take his place. Blue sweater on his shoulders, pure love upon his face. And now upon his corner, when evening breezes blow, when sunset paints the bridges and the sky begins to glow, just close your eyes and listen for what the wind now sings. The timeless voice of Norbert, and feel the joy it brings. While in a hidden universe, the heavenly hosts he greets, still sparkling eyes, electric smile, and a song for all he meets.
Thank you. Okay, see your chat. Let's go over there 1 second. It did say in advance, oh, it's a good time to repeat my little spiel. Forgive me that everyone is muted to start. I was just trying to be a little calmer and quiet as people are speaking because I did set this up in a way that people could come and go. And that's why it is the length that it is and the format that it is. So forgive me while I have to push buttons to move around. I'm not normally all over Zoom. Zoom is not normally my go-to. Oh, yay, the chats are for you. Yay. Well, there's a good note for you. Are you open to that being posted on Facebook, on his page? Okay, great. I will add that. And then, are there any other hands up this time? If not, I'll put some video on of Norbert. All right. Let's go find a video. I think it's going to make me stop sharing and then share, but we can do that. And so in this one, definitely use the chat to let me know if you can hear the audio. I tried desperately to get them as loud as I could, which sounds weird to say as loud as I could, but to make it so that you could hear it. But I know when I was trying to do some recording and playing it back, it was not the most clear. So on anything that I could possibly put on his Facebook page so that it could be viewed later, I'm going to do that. So we can ditch this guy and just listen to them. Yeah. Let's start over here in chronological order. I have to unmute each one because I didn't want it to scream at us. So this is from 1977 and it doesn't have audio. It's literally just 5 seconds and you can see, you can't miss him. There's our guy, 1977. And then I try to put these in order, like I said, by the date, but I might not be correct because of the difference between when people load things versus when they're actually posted. Let me try and make it full screen since they're stuff. So this one should have audio.
Still right? Where's right?
Oh my God, you think the lemon tree.
So this one, it said it was posted 16 years ago, but I don't know. It's at least that old, right? Because of that, but I don't know how old it truly is. And then we have this guy, another one with some audio that might be a little challenging, so I apologize in advance, but let's enjoy. And I'll post it properly later for better listening.
Arizona.
I think I have one. Yep, one more for now. We'll take a break and see what's going on in our chat. Open up.
Give me what you got there, right by my zapata. You got that? Para mí. Hey, you know what? Very seldom I meet somebody I can't speak their language. Okay, that's enough, man. Hey, Benito. Benito. It's there. Hey.
So as you can see, he was very particular about his being recorded, which is probably why there's not as many as there maybe could be. But I love what I can find, and I will say those two books that I had earlier that he's featured in, the Streets of San Francisco and the San Francisco pictorial. I don't know how to make it not blur out like its background. In those, he's not named. So if you didn't know who he was, you wouldn't see him, which is also why I gave the page numbers in case you do go tracking that down. You can see it for yourself. But he had bookmarked those for himself a million years ago. And I was like, well, I want a copy. And while we're on the subject of books, I have some random trivia, depending on how well you were versed in his Facebook page, probably not his life before then. Did you know that he was an author, a published author? How's it going to do that? Yeah. So he did not write this book when he was in the prime of his writing and creativity, just to be transparent in case you go looking for it. But he wrote a children's book. He had a desire to be a published author. And I was happy to share with him that as someone who grew up at a time when you couldn't self-publish, and then today it's super easy to self-publish, I told him, I said, I need 12 or 24 pages minimum. And you can write whatever you want, and I'll get it published for you on Amazon. So he gave me a few lines, and I spread them out over about 24 pages so that it was a little more full. And then I had to go find, and if you're not in that world, it's easy, but it also takes more time than you would think. I would get these royalty-free, okay to use photographs to go along with his words. And he was so happy to say that he was a published author. He would have, instead of telling people to go to Amazon to buy his book, which it's totally there on, he would have me buy a bunch of books for him, and then he would sell them for more than they were going for on Amazon because, The man was a busker and a hustler, and he did not stop being that just because he got a little older. He still was hustling and making the most of his gifts and talents, and I just love that. So if you are so interested, I will relink. I think I put it on his Facebook page at some point, but I'll relink his little book in case you mind. Although I will say, if you message me through there, I'll also order it for you and have it shipped to you directly, because the couple of bucks was going to him, but he's not here anymore. So of course, I guess if somebody buys it, I'll just pass it on to City Impact. But he no longer needs the couple of bucks, so it would only be if you want a children's book written by Norbert. All right, I'm going to unmute everyone. If I can I think I can figure out how to do that, and just let the floor be open so that we can have any sharing. I know some people have to come and go. Bear with me while I figure out how to do that. Here we go. Okay, I think you're all able to unmute if you wanted to. It should be open.
Can I say something, Ron?
Of course, yeah.
To add to your great endeavors to make him a published author, he also had a great desire to be to have his music recorded and be out in the world. And I started that process. And from when he played at my house with Robin, with his permission, I recorded that. And I was able to take one of the songs that wasn't under copyright and put it on a music website called Bandcamp. So if you go to Bandcamp, there is a site called Norbert Yancey Street Performer, and one of his songs with his wonderful voice is there, and you can listen to it for free. And I think after a while, if you want to download it, I put it at $1, and I was planning on giving that to Norbert. But if anyone downloads and provides $1, I will pass that on to Robin to give to City Impact. So he is now also a recorded musician. And I'll try to put more pieces up there from the recordings I have. Hi, Matt.
Hi there. Good morning.
I think
we're
we're
at
just
a
in
spot where we unmuted everybody. We had everybody muted so that it wasn't chaotic as people were coming and going while we had videos playing, but we happened to be in a spot where we unmuted everyone so that we could have open floor and share. So I know you just walked in the door, so to speak, but if you're at a good spot, you're welcome to take the floor. Share.
Give me a minute. I have a bunch of chaos going on around me. I'll be right back.
Yeah, enjoy your chaos. Well, how about, what if I play a video? I got some more videos. So I'll do a video for now. Let me go back to sharing. Change files here. Sorry, guys. Welcome to me working technology. It's a good day. Thank you for your patience. Only I did more Zoom calls. Oh, and we have a new guest. We'll let them in real quick, and then we'll start with playing this one, and then we'll come back for kitchen bass. This is Norbert getting some mail.
Oh, this is nice. Well, I like.
Yeah.
You like?
Nice. And you got a big old laundry bag for your items.
Oh, yeah, that's nice. I really like this.
Awesome.
All right, thank you.
Is there anything else in the bag?
No, thank you.
All right, here, I'll take that out of your way. You can keep focusing on getting everything out. You got lots of things.
Oh, this is a recorder.
Ah.
Cassette. Oh, that's nice. I like this. I'll sing you a song as you go along.
This is one of many gift opening sessions we had. Thankfully, he was very blessed by all of you. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Paused it. No, go back.
Okay.
Ongoing battle.
Out of here. I just let a few people in. So for those who are new in here, I just wanted to let you know that we had everybody come in on mute just so that as things are playing, it's not accidentally talking over whatever we might be in the middle of somebody's story or something. And then we'll kind of unmuting as we go. And I'm also periodically, in case we are in the middle of a speed round, checking in periodically with the chat, with the reaction, with the hand raise to be able to unmute you. Because I know I set this up so that people could come and go. I know there's no good time zone for all of us, and we just need to start somewhere. And I see a comment about the audio. If you could hear it at all and it just wasn't very clear, I do have to tell you that I had the same experience when I was kind of practicing it and seeing how the audio came across. So everything that I have over the next few days, I hope to get uploaded to Facebook. Some of them are already there, and then some, the ones that are already there, I'll re-upload anyway, so they're nice and at the top. And then I'll also share links to things that are online. That way we can do them. I thought, I'm sure this isn't an uncommon story, that I would have all this time to help Norbert like be live and do things. And we did do that. And then sometimes interacting with his care team and making sure that his logistics of his life were set up took more time, to where it took away from the fun stuff. But here we are. Let's see. I will do again where I'm try to unmute everyone. And I know there's a button to do that, so forgive me. I'll try and find it again so that you can I'm going to put it in a way that you can decide to mute or unmute yourself, I think. So if you wanted to unmute, we can hear your stories, because I would love to hear more. Okay. So Matt, is it a better time now?
Yeah. Yeah, this is great. Can you hear me?
Yeah, thank
you. Okay. I'm losing my voice a little bit too. Well, thank you, Robin. Oh man. So I think probably like most of us, I grew up in the San Francisco Bay Area, and I stumbled across Norbert when I was a teenager, and just, as most of us, I think, was kind of just amazed at what I was seeing in San Francisco with his songs, and I mean, the whole thing, and with the joy he brought to so many people. And when you're a kid, it's just kind of like, hey, that's an interesting, fun thing to have seen, whatever. Then you go again, and oh yeah, we're there. There he is again, and it kind of starts to stick with you. And we gets me a little emotional as you go through the different phases of your life. Things happen, and people become important to you that you've never, I don't know, you never thought, they would become important to you. And, you go through certain phases, and I used to seek out for a few years there after college, Norbert. I'd come to town and I'd be like, man, I'm kind of having a hard time. And I'd go listen to him, and we'd always talk, and he wouldn't really actually remember me. He'd always, hey, well, what's your name? But we'd talk, and it was just always like a guaranteed happy time, and just a chance to reflect on happiness happiness and the opportunity we have to choose that versus having life happen to you. And he was definitely a guy who, I wrote this down at some point once I got to know him, about like he doesn't have just hope happiness happens to him. He goes out and makes it happen every day. And I was so lucky, Robin, to find you. I had moved to the East Coast, and I'd moved back, and I was like, I gotta, as an adult now, I need to find out what happened to Norbert. And, I want to know him and at least tell him thank you. And I'm going to say it was about 10 years ago, Robin. I don't know exactly the time, but I Googled him, I found you, and you and I hit it off pretty well. In fact, you and I were both living in the same little town in Santa Rosa at the time. And at first, honestly, I was like, man, who is this woman? Like, I kind of I was worried you might be like taking advantage of him or something. And I was like, I really, but I learned pretty quick that, Robin, your heart is just as inspiring as Norbert has been for me in my life. You too are in that category of just the selflessness. I mean, I've gotten to know Robin fairly well over the last 10 years, and Norbert, thankfully. But the amount of time and love and compassion that, I mean, Robin, it's amazing what you did for him. I mean, amazing. So that's I've told my family about you. They've all met Norbert too, of course. I have 4 kids and a wife. But yeah, both you and Norbert have changed my life for the better, significantly. And when I was down there, particularly, I now live in Portland, Oregon, but for a good 7 or 8 years, I would regularly visit Norbert. Not as much as he would have liked, but we would almost always go out and do what are those called? Like field trips. So sometimes it was a bookstore, sometimes it was just a walk to wherever. Twice I brought him back to Ghirardelli Square, which was a amazing. I mean, he hadn't been out there singing for years, and people remembered him. People ran out of stores, and the street artists who, were there selling necklaces and things. I mean, it was like a rock star was back in town. And I'll always remember, we were in a poster shop that was there. He just wanted to go in, he was curious, like he was like a little kid, his happiness and curiosity. And he would talk to everybody. And, of course, if he thought you spoke a different language, he loved doing that always, and making people smile just in normal conversation. But we were in a poster store, and this Danish guy walks in who probably was about 35 or 40. And he couldn't believe it that Norbert was there. He couldn't believe it. Like, he was in awe. And he asked for his autograph and took pictures. And Norbert loved that. It was amazing. And once we went to a bookstore, and he would have stayed there all day. I mean, it was like he's curious about this, he wanted to look at these books. Oh, can we go over in here and look at, I want to learn about, snails. I always remember that. Like there's a book about snails, and he said, oh, let's look at the snails book. And so travel books, it was curiosity, happiness. It was just amazing. And so when I first met him too, I remember I was nervous going down there. I was like, man, what's this going to be like? I'm kind of in awe of this man. And I mean, he was exactly what he presented to what we all hoped he would be. He was that, and probably more because he was open to he was on the corner. He wasn't going to sit there and have a talk with you and stop his money making machine and his fun making machine. But in real life, he was just a nice guy. He was curious. He always asked about my kids. Just a great man. And I mean, he became a friend, and we wrote letters to each other and talked on the phone, all that. Robin is, that was always an adventure. Like I sort of gave up on it. It was hard to figure out how to get him he never quite mastered how to answer the phone when you call, but, and then actually I know I'm dragging on here. I have a lot of memories with him, but then when Robin, again, another amazing thing you did when you moved from the West Coast to the East Coast, you and I formulated a plan pretty early on that at some point we were going to get him out there with you, which again, Robin, it's amazing. Like your selflessness and commitment to him is just incredible. So I arranged it. He had his stuff that he didn't have that much stuff, but I mean, he hadn't been on a plane, I think. I mean, it was a long time. I think it was maybe in the 60s or maybe I think it was the 60s last time he was on a plane. So we got it set up. We got to the airport, I picked him up. We got to the airport. Again, we get to the airport, and like every check-in person, he thinks they speak a different language, and a lot of them did. So I mean, it took us forever to get through security, but we got there like 4 hours early. And then we're on the plane, and he's talking to everybody, and then he fell asleep. It would be like he's talking, he's laughing, and then I'd look over and he's asleep. And then we flew to the Las Vegas airport, and we had a bit of a layover, and there's a weather issue, so we had to be there for a while. But the Las Vegas airport, that was just like a Disneyland for him. So we were walking around, and these people would come off the planes in these crazy suits, and he was just, I mean, it was so entertaining to just be with him. And he was just sitting there mostly watching. And then finally we got on the plane, and we got out to Pennsylvania, and yeah, the rest is kind of a blur. And then walking him into his apartment, Robin, that was fun too. He was just so happy to be there, and that little room he had, and it was perfect. Oh, okay. So that's it. I could keep going on, but just a great man. He's exactly who you thought he would be and more. And then Robin, you made these last, however, I don't even know when you started with him, but at least 10 years, maybe more, 15. I don't know. But I wish my relatives, everybody I love, would have somebody like Robin as they go through this part of their life. It's really been inspiring. So thank you. That's it.
Thank you. I will tell the rest of you a piece of that. He alluded to it, but on their journey out, by this point, part of the reason why we pulled the trigger, the thing, and I prayed, so I talked to God. So if that language bothers you, please hear past it. When I would pray, I would just pray like, God, make it really clear, because I don't want to disrupt an old man's life for my ease and comfort, for my convenience. And I knew I had a grandmother with dementia. Again, I volunteered with human hospice quite a bit. So I interacted with a lot of different types of memory loss. And generally, the long-term memory is the good stuff. So he was still getting around on the bus and doing whatever. And that was what I used as my metric. If the dementia got so bad that his care couldn't be managed by the team that was there, and he had to escalate in his level of care to like a nursing home, which he would not have qualified for assisted living with his income and resources. So it would have been a big jump from living at home with in-home support, which is the arrangement we had both That's what we set up in 2015 into 2016. And then also here in Pennsylvania when he came here. The next level would have been all the way to nursing home, which doesn't have the same mental acuity and engagement socially. And I knew that keeping your social circle as big as possible for as long as possible was a huge thing. And staying with what's familiar and staying with schedule were the three things that I wanted to try to do for him. And I just would always pray, like, make it really clear when he can't get around or when his care needs to escalate, whether it's for physical or mental reasons. That will be the clue to say, like, oh, I think maybe to, no, you have to be closer because somebody has to be present to have these in-person conversations with caregivers. Caregivers are wonderful, but they're all overworked. They're asked to do more than they can do in a shift. And I'm just going to speak frankly and say that in my little baby experience, when you can humanize somebody by being there for them and with them, the team that's taking care of them tends to also adopt that humanization. And so it's not that they're doing a job, they're seeing the person and that the person is loved. And I don't think it's intentional. I think it's subconscious that then they accidentally get a little bit better care than they might have gotten if they hadn't had those visitors. If there wasn't someone else knocking on the door saying like, hey, I know last week we talked about changing the bed situation because it's not quite comfortable. Nothing's happened. What can we do about that? You know, all those little tiny things. And so I would come physically to visit Norbert after we were here. And I was calling, we were on the phone multiple times a day. As you know, that him answering the phone was hard, but thankfully we started with him calling me at set times of day early enough that it was like ingrained in his brain that at 6 p.m. he calls me, at 6 p.m. he calls me, at 6 p.m. he calls me. So when he came here, we kept that. And then we had to layer in some more, but that one stuck. And I had gone to visit him and I was like, all right, it's test time. You're going to take my husband, Sam, and I out on the town, take us to Fisherman's Wharf. We specifically want to go to Pier 39. Sam has never seen it. So I'm catering to all of his, like, I know this city, I know that area. And literally we're on Market where you could see the bus line, right? You could see exactly where to go. And he didn't know where to go. And so he got us on the bus and he took us to his day center. It was the only place he knew to go, is the senior day center that he would go to, the Institute on Aging at Geary, who took wonderful care of him for Monday through Friday. So that was the sign that, like, okay, now it's time to pull the trigger and bring him here because he no longer knows how to get around the city. In that same visit, I saw that he would take an extra hour and a half on a bus in order to avoid walking 2 blocks. Now, 2 San Francisco city blocks is a lot. But just to know that he had reached that level of discomfort, the only physical ailment he had was his knees were like wicked bone on bone arthritis. I see you, Judy. And so those were thankfully the 2 signs that I asked for. And it was very clear that it was time to bringing him. I always tried to question myself, like, am I doing the right thing? Because it's somebody else's life. And he's such an amazing human. You want to be a support, not a hindrance on that. But what I was trying to get to with all of that shenanigans was 2 things. Matt, the solution at the end here, at the end, I can only say that in hindsight, was we found a phone that I want to tell all of you about and anyone who will hear, from Raz Mobile, R-A-Z. And Raz Mobile is a phone that can give the caregiver an app. And that caregiver app has the ability for me to control his phone. So I could say who he could and couldn't call, which sounds very bad. But when you have somebody with dementia and not so much time awareness, it's actually quite helpful. He would accidentally call 911 many, many times. So making it so he could still get to those features, but not have them so accidental. And also, one of the features was I could have the phone auto answer after 3 rings. So his phone worked more like a walkie-talkie. So I would call him, and if he wasn't where he was supposed to be, or if he didn't call me when he was supposed to, I could get his phone to pick up, and I could just, hey, Norbert, and he'd be in the other room listening to TV, and he just forgot about me. And he would come over, oh, yeah, sorry, it's after 6. So we found a solution. So everyone should know about Raz Mobile. I hope you never need it, but it's only $25 a month. It doesn't need Wi-Fi. It doesn't need a crazy data plan, and it's amazing. So there's that. And your travel day was also no walk in the park. It was supposed to be a 1 full, like, really big day of travel. And how many, was it like 2 days, 3 days of travel? Oh, I don't know if I have to hit the button.
I've blocked that part out of it, but it was at least 2 days. Yeah,
It
we
was,
were delayed, and yeah, about
thankfully
48
he's
hours.
such a joy in that time. So you were probably worn out because he was going and going, and I know he crashed out and slept hard. So thank you for your sacrifice, your time, your energy, all of it. You've also
Yeah.
done him so well. And Judy, I'm gonna unmute you now. I believe that you have something for us, and we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, I first met Norbert. I'm sitting here thinking it was 55 years ago because I am a San Francisco native and I would go down to Fisherman's Wharf or, Ghirardelli Square to be specific with my friend. And we were teenagers. We were 12, 13 years old, something like that. And there was the human jukebox. I don't know if you guys remember. Yeah, the human jukebox who was in a right in a cardboard jukebox thing that he made for himself. And there was Norbert. And he always remembered us. And he remembered we were Jewish. And he would say, Shalom, Shalom, I'll take you home. And he would sing Hava Nagila to us. And then, as all of you know, you'd see him on the corner as the years went by and so on and so forth. And then one day he wasn't there. And I remember his pictures that he had under the red plastic. So I guess the sun couldn't fade them. But then I was working at the Institute on Aging, and I was at the front desk one day, and there was, oh shoot, it's blurry. Can you unblur your camera? If you unblur them, we can see them. If you've got your background blurred, oh, that we can
I'll
kind of
try
see.
and
Yeah,
unblur
yeah.
them. And I'll now that so I never wanted to touch this while he was
Oh,
here.
yeah,
It was precious to him. Well, now that he's
yeah.
physically not here, I can try to take it apart a little bit to put the images digitally. It's obviously not every one of them. It's not the original. One of the
Wow.
boards he had when I met him was a blue board. And that blue board, not the red board from before, the blue board,
Yeah.
I could not salvage some of the pictures, but anything we could salvage and that he had extras of around the house, I've got, and I'll absolutely be putting those up now that we can do that.
Oh, that's so great. And yeah, thank you for everything you did. But I remember when he walked into the Institute on Aging, and it took me a second. I'm like, wait a minute. That's the guy on the corner of Ghirardelli Square. And it was such a blessing to be able to interact with him all those years later and see that he was still the same guy, still just full of life and love and energy. That was amazing. Absolutely amazing. I left that job in 2019, so I hadn't seen him since then. But thank you for everything you did for him. My goodness. And Matt, wow, you were like his angels.
So were you part of the crew that gave him double dessert?
No, I just see, he lived at Bridge Housing and we shared the building, right? That used to be the Coronet Theater. And so that's where he would go during the day when you were talking about his daycare. So I would see him when he came to the daycare, the adult daycare. Now maybe inside the daycare they gave him too much dessert.
Oh
I don't
yeah,
know, but
not in a
I
bad way.
wasn't.
You gotta love on an
I
old
wa-
man. I'm the caretaker. It's my job to be like, well, you had 2 cakes at day center, so we're not gonna have cake tonight. You guys
right.
greet him. I'll work on the blood work, making sure it's good with the doctors. And
Wow.
then I will say too, the senior life, or not senior life, over there, Institute on Aging. What's the name? Unlock was the name of the program. They would have him play
Mm.
the guitar every Friday. So I don't know if you got that treat, but
Hmm.
every Friday he was playing the guitar. And then even here in Pennsylvania, it wasn't every week. I couldn't get them to go for that, but at least once a month, sometimes twice a month, he would play guitar here too.
When did he go to Pennsylvania?
It was about a year ago. It was July, the first few days of July, I think, and last
Mhm.
year, 2025.
Excellent. Wow. Thank you for doing this. He was just a special soul in the world.
Agreed.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to add on that too, the stuff about the desserts and all that. So I mean, I still work out a fair amount, but I used to really work out a lot when I met him. And he used to love to talk about like the fitness and like what we would do and push-ups and all this stuff. And I took him out to enough meals where I realized like he wanted more than just the healthy stuff that we would traditionally get, because that's what I thought he wanted. And then like we went grocery shopping one day and like he couldn't help himself. He wanted to get all the dessert stuff. And I was like, really? Okay. And we didn't get all of it. We got a little bit. But ever since then, it was always like he was kind of self-conscious about it, but he would laugh about it. Like whenever we'd go out, he'd want the dessert as well, not just the healthy stuff that he thought he should only want, I guess. But it was pretty funny. And then Robin, I don't know if you've already mentioned this, but I remember, I can't remember if you got it. I think you got it for him. One of us when we got to Pennsylvania and we got him a cake.
Oh
Remember
yeah,
that?
yeah.
Yeah. And I think he ate the whole cake, right? Yeah. Yeah, he
Literally,
loved the
he ate
sweet
the
foods.
entire cake in less than 24 hours. Like
Yeah.
I got the smallest little quarter sheet you could get, but it's still a lot of cake for a single person. I don't care what size you are, unless you're a
Yeah.
25-year-old linebacker. That's too much cake.
Yeah.
It's so
But I got a lot of letters from him. In fact, I regret that I mean, it was a lot. If I would have kept them, it would have been a huge box full of letters. But he always talked about, remember, keep yourself physically fit. That's, in fact, let me go grab one because he had some like neat sayings in there. I'll be back. I'll read to you. I got one a few days before he passed, actually. So let me go grab that. I'll be right back.
yeah, as the one kind of present for some of the shifts, not, from the time I was on the scene, so to speak. It's so fun. And this is true of all of us, with or without dementia. Our bodies change, our taste buds change, our willpower and motivations change. Everything changes. And I haven't been 89, so I can't say how I'm going to feel at the time. And then you add to that, we're all different bodies. And I just felt like I watched with my grandmother, pushing to have her eat what was best for her based on her physical situation. I felt like it actually pulled her dementia back a little bit, like made it not so noticeable. And then there was a point where it just dropped off a cliff, and it was like, if we don't get her to eat carrot cake, she's going to have 0 calories. And I know this is going to sound, again, forgive me if it's too blunt for you, but even passing away, dying takes energy. You go down, like, we don't even take the human form. You can go down to cellular biology on a cell level for that mitochondria to have its last little explosion and die. It takes energy. And so, you push for that good nutrition as long as you can, because it's going to keep symptoms. Like his pain in his knees would be worse if he ate a whole cake versus if he had a more balanced, more protein and healthy fats rich diet and some carbohydrates that are, the choices that are not so rough on our joints as we get older and whatnot. And their brain and your heart tend to need the same things. So just always trying to push for the best, and then also always watching for but you only live once, so giving you a little bit of please enjoy your life and walking that line. While Matt's reading there, I'll say even with me, even a week or days before he passed, you ask him I want chicken, I want salmon because the omega-3s and this is great for you. You take him to the restaurant and you let him order at his will. He's choosing the chicken nuggies. Sometimes he'll choose a chicken Caesar's salad or wrap, but most of the time, if he wasn't filtering for what he thought you wanted, he would lean towards, just like all of us, the same foods a toddler would enjoy. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but just to mean that easy to eat. He had dentures that he stopped wearing. We all get older, and I hope somebody lets me have ice cream. Maybe not as much as I want.
Oh, yeah. I won't read directly from the letter, but
Oh,
yeah. Yeah. Uh, yeah.
I'll call out. I have a video somewhere as I go to upload the things now that I have different time available for supporting Norbert in a different way. I definitely have some. I know I think it was Taylor Street. We're sitting in front of a little coffee shop, and he wanted me to film him talking about how to stay healthy. And before the camera was on, he was saying this is how you eat, and this is how you exercise, and this is what you do. And I'm like, well, let me film you, and we can share it. And when I went to film him, because that short-term memory, he said something that was the vibe, but it wasn't quite as clear. And that's kind of, a sunset is never as pretty through a camera, no matter how good the photographer as it is with your own eyes. And that's something that I just tried to always remember, that as much as I was like, oh, shoot, I missed that for others, I was trying to just remember to be blessed by the fact that I got to be present, and you guys got to be present at different times that I didn't even know of him at.
Yeah.
I
Well,
wanted
it's funny.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh. Well, I will read something. Actually, so this is funny. This the reason I don't want to read it is I actually just opened the last one I got. I didn't. It came right after he passed, actually, so I had never opened it.
Yeah.
And it's a little different than the other ones. I mean, I had a lot of letters. I'm at least 100 over the years, and they were all kind of the same template. But this one was not that way. His last one, he was talking more about his arthritis in his knees, and he always wanted something, right, Robin? Like he wanted this new thing he'd seen on TV, but it wasn't. It's interesting. It was a different type of letter that he didn't usually like to talk about his challenges. But that was more of it. But actually, I don't have the other letters with me, but I had sent a text to my kids. I have 4 kids. After he passed away from that second to last letter I'd gotten, and he had said, and I passed this on to them because I would always tell my kids, like, this is a guy who had nothing. And we think we have all these problems, and he's happier than most people I know. And let's see, I quoted in a text to my family. It said, these are some of the things he said in his last letter. Life is short. Life is too short to waste your time on the negativity that other people sometimes want to bring into your life. I always strive to be the kind of individual who is optimistic and positive about life because it is something that is good. So don't worry, be happy. Life is beautiful, embrace it fully. And these were kind of the gist of his letters, whether they're exactly those words or not. He would always say something like that, and he lived it, and it was beautiful. So.
Sure.
I have the last letter he sent me, May 26th. And I'd be happy to read it. Dear Anne, how are you, my friend? Fine, I hope. It would please me to know that life has been treating you kindly. I try to take good care of myself and hope you are doing the same. As you have suggested that you can help me to record and make a disc or both. With your influence and prestige, I am sure it can be done. Furthermore, I certainly don't mind sharing. I send to you my best regards, and I told my friend Robin that I was writing to you, and she too sends her best regards. Anyway, it would be nice and a kind gesture on your part if you would send a couple of pictures that we took a while ago when we were together. At any rate, what have you been doing lately? Whatever may have been, I am sure that it was constructive. I do hope that you had a most pleasant Memorial Day. Anyway, do remain in touch so that we'll be in sync. One of my favorite quotes is as follows: good friends are like angels. You don't have to see them to know that they are there. Anyway, I would appreciate a response as soon as your time permits. Stay well and always try to remain optimistic and positive in life because I think that is a good thing. Sincerely yours, Norbert Yancey. And you're right. I got, some of the phrases he would repeat in letters, but there was always something a little bit different in each one. Yeah. Thank you, Matt, for sharing your letter too. And I also want to say, in this past year, since I've been seeing Norbert and also getting to know Robin, that Robin really has been truly amazing in what she has done. I wish everybody has, as Matt said, a Robin in their life at that stage of their life. She handled things so beautifully and so tenderly and so caring for Norbert. I can't say enough good things about it.
Yeah, no, I'm happy. I'm happy you got to get those letters too, Anne. They're they're amazing. Yeah. One thing, Robin, I don't know if I ever followed up with you on this, but I'm going to say 5 years ago, roughly. Do you remember when I took him out to do the video shoot that people were making a movie?
Yes.
In fact, Anne, I feel like you were this was kind of around when, actually, that was really fun too. And I'll just tell the story about, I think, Anne, you must have reached out on the Facebook page. I don't remember how that started.
On Facebook, yeah.
Yeah, and so you and I connected, and there are a lot of people who connect, but you were like, hey, I really wanted to go more than just saying hi, And so we set up a FaceTime, and it was one of our outings, and Norbert and I were in the Fairmont Hotel, and he like, we would just go, I just think of things to do. Hey, you want to do this? And he said yes to literally everything. So we just walked around the Fairmont one day, and we set him up. I think it was my phone or an iPad, and you and him, and I thought it might just be a few minutes, like, hey, hi. But he sat there, and then I left him. I would walk loops around this big lobby, and he was just, you guys had a great time with that phone call.
That was the first time I'd interacted with him since I was 6 years old, which was in the early 1960s. So he was living to sort of fill in his history a little bit, he was living in Chicago with my family in the early 1960s, and he had been living in New York before then. So my guess is when he left Pennsylvania, he probably went to New York to do, and that's where he started busking, I think, where my dad discovered him busking in Bryant Park near the New York Public Library, singing operatic arias, probably without a guitar at that point. And then he came to Chicago, and then my dad got sick and he moved out, and I didn't know what happened to him after that until I saw his Facebook page. So it was very meaningful to me to see him on that Zoom. Thank you so much, Matt, for arranging that. I think it was Christmas time, because there was a big Christmas tree in the lobby where you were. And even more amazing to see him in person last year for the first time since I was 6 years old. So thank you both so much for making that happen.
Wow, that's amazing.
Well, and it's in alignment with a comment from Eve in the chatter about his upbringing or his family influences, to say, because we were giving some of the geography where he was, I actually had some random trivia for us. One of which we already addressed, favorite foods, actual versus aspiring, and what he did before. But one of them was different places that he lived, which, we may not have all the answers, and they were just his to have, because by the time he was telling stories, you maybe don't share all of yourself when you're busking. And then maybe I didn't get all of it because it was just gone, a chapter that didn't matter as much, and the ones that mattered are the ones that stayed there. But he did originally, as of 1955, he was in Texas. That was his time as a military police. At that time, the Air Force was the only branch of the military that did the policing for all of the different branches of the service. And that was his role. 1955, he was in Texas with the Air Force. So he definitely did more than what we have record of among us so far. But, of course, we see people too, and this is the benefit of sharing our stories and reading the comments from different people. For example, many people from San Francisco he'd meet just the right person and ask or be offered to go to Europe, and they would pay his way to get him there. And then he would couch surf and do some little side hustles and go around while he was there. But then there was also people who saw him in San Francisco that didn't know who he was, but had seen him in Munich. So they're like, oh, I love it. You're the guy from Munich. You're the guy from, the different places that he'd been. I'll see if there's anything else before I go. Upbringing wise, the one thing he said all the time, my mom was Catholic and my dad was Protestant. So he said that a lot. He did go to Catholic school. He mentions, but again, it's hard to say what was aspiring versus what was the reality. And who cares? Who he thinks he is more important than who he was. And each of our individual experiences of someone, our perception is our reality. But he mentioned like enjoying the idea of discipline. He had gotten into martial arts very, very young. And so he liked the idea of the military because he liked the idea of that discipline. He liked the idea of just having something to be held accountable to. And it's many times he would reference his martial arts and his military background, even though he wasn't in the military for an extended period of time. He mentioned those two things as driving his discipline. Mark Paulson, which you might have seen in the comments on his Facebook page, mentioned he might not be able to get on because he's 84. He lives in Thailand now. He was in San Francisco initially. He helped move Norbert into an apartment on Haight Street at some point. He has a wonderful story about how fastidious Norbert was, that he spilled something on the carpet and like quickly ran to clean it up and make sure that it was tidy as soon as possible. And then, of course, there's loads of stories. Norbert loved to cook. By the time I met him, he literally could not. He not only physically didn't have the facilities to do it and his physical space, but he also didn't have the facilities to do it any longer, from like, you know, remembering to keep the stove on. But he loved to cook, which made it fun to bring over my experimental cooking. He loved anything that you put in one pot, soup or stew style, and then let the flavors marinate. And he would try it when you first brought it over and then let it sit for a day and try it again. And that was the kind of cooking that he would reference that he used to do. And he seemed to kind of miss it. But I'll pause there before I keep going.
You know, one thing I thought of earlier and I started to talk about, but I forgot, is I think it was around the time we went to the Fairmont, but remember that movie crew that I took him out to perform one more time in Ghirardelli Square?
Yes.
So these guys, it must have been the Facebook page, right? They contacted and said, hey, we're going around the country and we're trying to film all the best street performers around the world. And it was some really rich Russian guy. I met him. He was out there. We arranged a time where we got Norbert out to Ghirardelli Square. Hi, Judy. And he performed again. And it honestly, I watched him over the years. You know, it had declined pretty significantly for a while. It wasn't quite the same. He wasn't quite as quick. But so I had mixed feelings when they recorded him. He was out there and he was doing a performance for them, but he was trying to interact with people still. But it was footage that I don't think they ever made the movie. I kind of tracked them for a while, but I'm going to try to get the content from them. That would be neat to have.
Yeah.
Kind of his last time. Yeah.
That would be great, Matt, because the Smithsonian said they would help me try to find a place to archive his material.
Oh, wow.
And they're really interested in particularly his performing, you know, his music, his performance. So any video is really super helpful.
Yeah, it's funny how little there is of it. Because I remember when I used to even want to take a picture when I was younger, he'd be like, no cameras, no cameras. So
we played a video earlier where at the end, he was telling the video, whoever's taking the video, that's enough, that's enough. And so it's clear he understood this is an act that you pay for. And so the downside of that is we don't have as many clips. And then a lot of times, like in these books, that he's unnamed. So if you didn't know that it was him in this publication from 69 and this publication from 76, you wouldn't know that it was him in there. We had some new joiners. So I just want to say, use the chat, use your hand raising, use your video to wave to come off camera. We'll absolutely open that up. I just had it quiet so that because people would be coming and going drop-in style, it doesn't interrupt if somebody's in the middle of the story. But it literally is a wonderful time to hear from you. We're going through some just random trivia and stories about Norbert and experiences and just enjoying who he was. So one question that's a trivia question. Do any of you know where he lived when he was in New York? I don't know if he ever shared it, so I'll just ask him. So I have that he was in Brooklyn. So fun fact. And then he would mention performing. He couldn't remember the name of the corner in New York. I know that he was in front of the public library at some points. And I don't know if this is the same or different because I don't know the city well enough. But he mentioned that there was a specific tower of a building that had multiple recording studios and the offices for music publishing in that studio. And he would be outside that door. And that's where he got some of his like 1950s famous interactions and being able to say he met people. Not as much camera back then, so there's not as much photo evidence, but that's where he would meet a lot of the blues and jazz people that came in and out of that New York building, because he was trying to pitch and he had recordings of himself trying to put it out there.
Robin, one thing, I think I found, I'm trying to find the Beats on the Street page, but I haven't found it yet. One thing that was fun on the Facebook page, is I remembered this name as a kid, but when the guy reached out to me, I was like, oh my God, that's kind of amazing. So I did a deep dive onto it. It was there's a mime group in San Francisco called Shields and Yarnell, which became huge in the 70s. Like he's the guy, I think it was Shields is the man. He's the guy who reached out. He invented the robot dance apparently as a mime. But when he reached out, I told Norbert, hey, this guy, and he was like, oh yeah, they were so funny. And he used to perform near them. And they became like with Robin Williams, like big stars for a while. And I kept Norbert really wanted to connect with him, but the guy was leery about maybe because he was a mime. He was leery about like getting on a call with Norbert. But he spoke like a normal person. But Norbert used to joke about that, like, oh yeah, of course he doesn't want to talk. He's a mime. So but that was really neat because yeah, if you Google Shields and Yarnell, if you don't know, they were a big deal for a while, and Norbert watched that happen where they went from just literally right down the street from him to being on TV and being on Johnny Carson and just being this huge act. And I think he always, I mean, this is reminding me when I used to see him when I was young, he would always say he was about to go on the Johnny Carson show, and that was very common for him to say. And I'd be like, oh, that's great. I'm going to go look for it. And then even when it was after Jay Leno came on, I remember him saying that too. He goes, oh, I know Jay too. I'll be on that like next week or something. Anyways, just wanted to share that.
One of the videos we shared earlier, he says, I'm going to be on Jimmy Kimmel next week, and this time I'm going to do 20 minutes, which again, because he did meet the Queen, because he did meet Arnold Schwarzenegger, like so many people. And he did act, some of them were just that photo taking moment that he absolutely embraced. He knew how to make his money. He wasn't a fool. He's a smart man. And then some of them were deeper connections. Like he has numerous stories of Carlos Santana walking by, and he made the comment about giving him hundreds, and then one day it shifted to a 20, and he looked at him twice like, what are you doing? It's not what you give me. But just to say, like, he did have these fantastical things that I think I choose to believe that was him trying to do affirmations. Yeah, he's jiving and trying to make a buck, but also I think he was trying to make it into a reality. Even as recently as a few days before he passed, he's asking me for different publications, and he's always wanted me to write to Oprah, and he's always wanted to be on Roots, and not understanding that, like, well, we can do an ancestry.com thing, but this is not going to be the same as going on Roots. It's not quite that simple unless you have an army behind you and a production team. But I did see the question about the languages. And here's, again, take me with a grain of salt. There might be some holes in this, but what I know for pretty sure, based on the acuity he had early on, and then even as things went on, the story not changing. When he was in school, they had to learn Latin. So he had that kind of, how they say once you learn a language, regardless of what it is, it kind of opens up that part of your brain. So learning the second and the third language, or I should say the third and the fourth, is actually supposedly a little bit easier. So he had Latin in school for sure. He had an Italian lady next door. So he reported that he would go spend a lot of time at this lady's house, a friend of his next door, and that lady only spoke Italian. She did not speak any English. So he learned Italian pretty quickly. And he self-reports that the first language he learned was German. And, if you look at the time of our history when he was in school, the fact that it was Catholic school, that was probably something he had in school. Certainly something he would have had around him in the Philadelphia area, Sharon Hill, Pennsylvania, a smaller town at that time, less traveled than it is now. So the German and Italian came pretty quickly. And then his heart was singing the arias, the opera, which is why now I'll have more opera recordings of him than of some of the other genres, because that was his favorite. And, as the filters go away and you don't have to, hustle for a buck, he was able to do what made his heart happy. So he definitely loved saying that he was an operatic tenor. Here's who I'm like, and singing for you in that voice specifically. But before that, and going back to like New York time, that was what he did because that was his passion. And he would reference that he was doing what he wanted to do at that time. After that time, where along the way, I don't know, but somewhere in his journey, operating in San Francisco as a busker, he figured out how to get paid. And because he had this knowledge of languages, he had so many dictionaries, y'all. His house, even after I emptied it out, so it only had one version of every Korean, Japanese, Croatian, like every dictionary ever. At least it felt like it. And I would clear out the duplicates so he just had what he had. And then I would come back and say a year later we'd do a spring cleaning type cleaning, and I would again have to like get all the duplicates because he was just loved having his dictionaries around and interacting with them. And one time I got him because I noticed his fluency in Spanish was a little lower than it used to be. And so I thought I was blessing him by giving him a dictionary that was intended for an earlier learner, like somebody newer in their language fluency. And he was like, this is for babies. And he was the first time I heard him saying anything neat, kind of unkind or not flattering about anything. I was cracking up. You're right. You are much more fluent than that. I apologize. And I pulled back out his own dictionary that was already on the shelf that he didn't need a duplicate of. But so he did those languages as he went, but definitely started with the German and Italian and Latin. He said that story so many times that I very much believe it. All right. We have some new guests. I had everyone come in muted so that as we're telling stories, we don't interrupt, but I will go ahead and click. If you want to either use the chat section or raise your hand, or I'll go through one at a time and hit the ask to unmute. If you would love to share, it's a great time. I do have a video I can play, or 2 or 10. If we want to do that. But first, I'll just give a second here to say, is there anyone that wants to be unmuted at this time? Okay, so I'm going to flip back over to another video if you guys don't mind. And for those who are new, I have been apologizing all day. I did my best to try and have these videos have the very best audio possible. I did click the little button to like optimize for video and all of those things. However, when I was testing it, I know the audio quality is not what I would hope it to be. My commitment is over the next couple weeks, few days, that I will put these up. It might take, I don't know how many I have, so it might take me some time, but we'll get these put up so that we can hear the real audio without this garble or quieter tone. So bear with me here. Let me get to the sharing my screen part. Thank you for hanging out with me while I do this. I'm obviously not on Zoom all day. We'll just start where the recording left off last time.
Oh, I just forgot your second one, the first time. No, but I mean the word thing. Now it's time to get some soup. I want to get Cincinnati. Gonna be your sugar daddy. There she goes, still those sneakers. Oh my goodness, jeepers creepers.
What did you like about that? The impact? Like we just got that picture. Taking our picture was pretty cool. What else was cool about that day or interesting?
Well, then just people that surprised the ones that knew me, but I didn't know them.
That happens a lot though, right?
Okay.
In 18.
In 18 to 14, I took a little trip along the town. Oh, wait a minute. In 18 to 14, I took a little trip along the Mississippi Delta. In 18 to 14, I took a little trip along the Mississippi Delta, mighty Mississippi. I took a little bacon and I took a little beach. Fired by the British in the town of New Orleans. If I heard our gun, then the British kept the coming. There wasn't not as many as a word ago. We fired once more, and they just kept coming down the Mississippi to the Gulf of Mexico. Have you ever heard?
What do you feel like doing?
Dancing on my shoes.
Do it.
And drinking some booze.
Do it. Dance.
Then go inside the cruise.
Going to
I learned about the news. They think I'm confused.
Oh, man. I'll just pause there and kind of check in. You might have noticed one of the things on his background there, he had a word search. Almost every time I would come over after, like I'd be at work and I'd come visit him, and he would have his word search out all the time because that was he just always wanted to keep his mental acuity going, and that was a way that he thought he could do that. And it's fun to share that concert, it got hard for him to walk around too much. So we had to choose very carefully where we were going. And that was one that I really felt strongly about. And I also knew it would probably kick his butt physically. In the area we live now, there's one of the towns is called Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. And they have a giant music festival that's like a week long. It's free. There's multiple stages. It's no San Francisco, like it's not the park, but it's what we have here. And it's something that only comes up once a year. And I knew that besides going to like little concerts during the summertime, that this was something I wanted him to go and enjoy. And we picked a stage and had to just sit there because he couldn't get around too much. And how perfect was it that there was a group playing called the Red Elvises, and it's like a metal version of these old German standards. So of course Norbert's singing along as he's watching. So I think that was just an absolutely divine moment that we had the opportunity to see something that he performed and in a totally different artistic way. He had so much fun with that, and other artists as well. But that particular moment I just loved because he knew the music and he was vibing. So I'm going to say again, if you want to wave your hand, I think I can see everybody's camera, or use the raise hand button or chat to let me know if you want to unmute. There's no.
And Robin.
Yeah.
Robin, I've got to go. So I want to say again, especially for those of you who are new to this, that thank you again for this and for everything. I met Robin about 10 years ago and helped a very small percentage of the time compared to what Robin did, but she was my conduit to meeting Norbert and helping him over these past 10 years. And I just, again, thank you. It was a gift to me, to him, to everybody who's here, to the world. I mean, there's this thing on Facebook now for everybody. And Anne, with what you're doing with the Smithsonian, this is like a miracle that this guy who touched so many people found you. Like, he found you and you helped us find him. And it's a miracle of just doing something nice for another person. And it changed the world for a lot of people. So thank you, sincerely. Yeah. Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Have a good day. Thank you, Matt. Thank you for sharing. All right. For those who are new, I'll just repeat my script. Sorry for those that have heard it a million times. I start everybody on mute so that way as you come in, if someone was sharing a story, we don't interrupt their story. But then I'm happy to unmute anybody at any time. So just raise your hand, wave it physically. If you have your camera on, I can see you. I would love to hear from you. I didn't, to repeat a little bit, I didn't get to meet Norbert until 2015. So I only got what I learned about him through the lens of a gentleman who just was more worried about today than his past. And then over the years, as he got more stable, we got to really know each other well. And thankfully, all of y'all sharing your stories, I got to know him even deeper, learning what an amazing talent he was beyond just being the human that attracted me to easily want to support and help him through the church where we met, City Impact. So I will do where I try and hit everybody so that you can unmute yourself. So let me hit those buttons first. And if I don't have any takers, I'll play more videos of Norbert if you don't mind, because frankly, they make my heart happy, but I really would love for this to be your opportunity to share. Oh, and I see you,
Anne. Robin, I actually want to call out Bruce Titel, who just joined us, who has shared with me a lot of amazing stories about his time knowing Norbert. So Bruce, I think we haven't heard some of the things that you could offer. So if you are willing, I would love for you to share what you know about Norbert. But if you don't, that's okay too.
Well, thank you, Anne. It's good seeing you again. If I get started here, I may not be able to stop. I go back a long ways. I first encountered Norbert. My best guess is probably 1973, 72, 73, something like that. Just a trip to San Francisco. I'm a musician, have been a musician all my life. And just walking around the wharf there and then down farther and came across Norbert. And just, it was like somebody put cement in my shoes. I just couldn't move anymore. I just stood there and watched this amazing entertainer. And then every time I would go back to San Francisco, I would just, I would spend, a whole day just standing and watching. And I got to really enjoy certain specific things. Yeah, I listened to the music and all, but I would watch, and just as Norbert would watch, as he was singing all the time, of anybody down the line just walking kind of towards him. And I would see his face in the middle of a song. He'd be singing a different song. And you could see something register on his face. And then I would watch like a couple, and they would be walking up. And right in the middle of his song, he would just switch right into like a German drinking song. And of course, he knew somehow this was an innate ability to know that these people were German. They were German tourists. And I would watch their faces as they were walking up to him. And all of a sudden, they're hearing him sing in German. And it was truly a delight to see. And I was hooked. I just, was fascinated by watching him and everything he did. So much so that a few years later, I woke up one morning and something just hit me. And I wrote a song about him. And I've written, many dozens and dozens of songs, and some of them are real tough to get out of you. Some take, months and months to finally get right and hone and everything. I woke up that morning and this song was completely finished in pretty much its final form in like a half an hour. It just like flowed out of me. And I was wondering if something, cosmic or something happened. I said, I wonder if he's okay. I wonder if this is the day something happened to him and it flowed to me and it just came out of me. And it's, I had all kinds of ridiculous thoughts, but I wrote the song and then I began performing it and people loved it. And I had a dream. My dream was to someday go back up there and and play that song for him. And a few years later, it happened, and he actually gave me his guitar, sat me down in his seat, got out a camera, and took pictures of me while I was playing and singing his song. I never saw any of those pictures. I would give I would give a digit to see those pictures. You know, all I have is, you know, memories in my head. And I had many of those kinds of experiences. I don't know where to go from here, and you know what to tell. You know, like everyone else who saw him, I was hooked, and you know, I made it a point anytime I was ever near San Francisco. You know, that's the main thing I want to do. I wanted to hang with Norbert, and it's funny every time I would see him. As soon as I don't know if he did this with everybody, I don't know, but as soon as our eyes locked and he saw me, it was like recognition, like, oh, you know. And so I don't know if that was part of his, you know, thing that he did with everybody, but he was good at it because it got me. And yeah, I don't know where else to go. I've had many of those kinds of experiences, but they're all pretty much the same, you know, just when coming in contact with him, getting goosebumps and just being thrilled to be in his presence and laughing with him. That laugh, oh my gosh, that laugh. But yeah, I think Anne's doing an incredible thing by trying to not let his legend die, and to spread it to other folks. And gosh, I hope you're real successful with that project, Dan. I really do.
In the meantime, we have a comment that I think many of us could relate to and agree with. I don't want to speak for everybody, but I feel pretty strongly about it. Is it possible for us to hear your song?
I think I do have a recording of it, a video of it. It's not a professional video. It was taken by I don't know, I forget who it was taken by, and it's not great quality. But I think you can. But how to do this? I'm on my phone right now, and I think I have to go to my computer here and bring it up, and then kind of just. I'm not real technical, but just kind of physically point my phone at my computer.
Something that's posted online, like on YouTube or somewhere, like where there's a link for it, or is it just inside of your device?
It's just inside of my device. I have other things on YouTube, but I was looking for a good recording of this, and that's been the bane of my existence. Actually, in my whole life, I was trying to get my CD done, and I was close to getting it done 3 times, and that song was going to be on it, but I never got it done. Let me see if I can. Give me just a minute here.
Okay, I'll see. Is there anyone else who would like to pipe in while Bruce is having a look? And again, I have so many of Norbert. I can share some more either photos or videos of Norbert while we wait. So I'm looking for a hand raise or in the chat, or if you have your camera on, just literally physically waving. Oh, looks like you have it. All right, I got you. Come right up.
1 minute. Okay. If I turn my phone around, can you see that okay? And I can't see where I'm pointing. So do I have it on there?
It is in your little box. And I think each of us, if we choose the view that makes the speaker, the one who's speaking, larger, maybe we can see it better for each of us. But yeah, let's give it a go.
Let's try. Like I say, I'm not making any excuses. It's just not a real great recording. In fact, you'll see the audience pan around, and whoever took it got a lot of pictures of my daughter at the time, who was, I think, like 7 or 8. And to show you how long ago this was, she's now 29. So, you know, man, time flies. But let's see what we can. Let's see if we can. I'm gonna try. Okay, you guys ready? This song is about one of the greatest entertainers I've ever seen in my entire life. He's an old street musician in San Francisco. His name is Norbert Yancey. So the title of this song, cleverly titled, is The Legend of Norbert Yancey. There's a man on a corner near San Francisco Bay. Plays his guitar and sings songs every day. And if you stop by, sit down and find yourself a place seat, I guarantee you'll leave him with a smile on your face. One day, on Norbert Yancey, I found he had a song to sing and a story to tell. You can feel all the energy that he has to give. He never had much, but he knows how to live. Norbert Yancey is a friend of mine. I've seen Norbert, see the sun shining. If you see people laughing, hear a happy sound. You know that Norbert Yancey spin around. Works on the docks all week long, but it lives just for a story and a song. The stage is the concrete of Ghirardelli Square. Saturday or Sunday, you're sure you find him there. I'll be young for a simple country tune. You'll be serious and then you'll cry like a buffoon. And if you speak a different language, you'll speak it too. He's got love in his soul and he gives some to you. Norbert Yancey is a friend of mine. I'd rather see Norbert, see the sun shining. If you see people laughing, hear a happy sound. Know that Norbert Yancey spin around. He had a tree. Didn't realize cause for a tree found is a very sad day. Cause it's oh, so a tree lost. I could just sit and watch him for hours, drinking with the people, working his hours. He weaves his magic for every good boy. The children, yes, the children are his last joke. Norbert Yancey is a friend of mine. I'd rather see Norbert than see the sun shining. If you see people laughing, you hear a happy sound. Know that Norbert Yancey spin around. Yancey is a friend of mine. I'd rather see the sun shining. Yeah. My mom would be maybe. Did that come through okay?
Yeah, I mean, and as good as it can, just like I've been saying on the videos that we put together, we put the audio as loud as we can. So I'm sure it varies based on our setups for listening, but I definitely heard enough and got the gist to enjoy it. So thank you so much for sharing. If you do want to coordinate separately and put it either on his page or have us on the page point to you wherever you want to host it, I'm happy to do that. That's a lovely tribute. That's fantastic. Thank you.
Thank
you. I am going to pull up, I know that we have some new faces again. So just to kind of repeat what we've been saying all along here is that as we've been going, we have people come in muted so they don't happen to accidentally interrupt. But I'm going to touch everyone's button to say, if you want to unmute yourself, now's a good time. We'd love to hear from you. But this way, we're not interrupting each other. So I've hit that button. So if you don't see it and you want to be unmuted, just either raise a hand, use a comment in the chat, but you should be able to do it for at least a few minutes here.
You know, who just came in didn't hear my song?
Or maybe came in the middle of it. So I see at least one person unmuted, but it says Zoom user. So I've got two, iPhone 41 and Zoom user. You are each unmuted if you want to. Bruce, is one of those you?
I don't know. I'm unmuted, I think. Yeah, you can hear me, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about me? Can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you perfectly.
Hi, I'm Robin's mom. So I actually learned about Mr. Yancey when Robin became associated with him and helped him get the benefits and medical attention and things that he needed in California. And I got a chance to talk to him a couple times over the phone then, but last July when he moved to Pennsylvania, he became part of our family. And we all absolutely loved him. And he was such a people person. I got a chance to go to Gettysburg with Robin and Mr. Yancey in July for a touristy day. But I have to tell you that Mr. Yancey and I sat in the car talking about everything under the sun rather than paying attention to the historical monuments and stuff that were going on around us. And then we were blessed enough to have him for Thanksgiving and Christmas. And he, everyone from my husband and I down to our smallest grandchild, he entertained us with his speech, his songs, his pictures. He was just fantastic. We loved him. We were so glad that we got to meet and have him part of our family for that short period of time. He loved writing letters. I wasn't so good at writing back, but he just loved people. His letters were always take care of yourself, keep good, positive thoughts. I hope, I hope God is being good to you. I hope to hear back from you. He was just a wonderful man, and we're so blessed to have met him and have him share our life. And I have enjoyed listening to all of you. I wish I would have been able to know him back in the day. But it's been great listening to all your stories and your songs and your music. And I thank Robin for putting this together so all of you and I have a chance to honor a wonderful man and his life. Thank you.
Thank you. You make me cry over here remembering that Gettysburg Day. Oof.
Sorry.
It's okay. I cry a lot. I got tissues. It's good. And it's good memories, right?
Absolutely.
Now
Absolutely.
He can in heaven do the tour and actually listen, because he was always so curious. He was a history buff. He was asking me about Gettysburg constantly, which is why we had to make that a priority. And it looks like, Tom, you are also not muted. Do you have a moment, or is it a good time for you to speak?
Sure. Yeah. I just met Norbert a couple times in college, and my girlfriend and I were walking, down to the square, on spring break. And as soon as we got close and he saw us, of course, he started singing a song about us. And um, we spent a few minutes talking to him, and it was just really a cool experience. Just a very engaging time, something very unexpected for us. We didn't expect that to happen, didn't know who he was or anything about him. But yeah, we had a conversation with Norbert, and then we kind of went on our way. It turns out that a year later, we were actually back at the square, Ghirardelli, and he saw us from a ways off, and he started to come towards us and immediately started singing again where he left off the year previous. He continued to sing the song that he had been singing a year earlier. And to me, that was just the coolest thing ever. I just was like, wow, I don't have the ability to do that. But this guy, Norbert, was just a very engaging, very connecting person. And that made a real impact in my life, because I said, there's something different about Norbert. There's something special about him. And I think that just made me want to be more engaging with people and connect with people in a deeper way. So yeah, just a great experience. Wish I would have had more time with Norbert to really get to know who he was and his story. But yeah, that was an amazing experience with Norbert.
Amen. And isn't that the coolest thing? You're really tailing off what Bruce had also just said and implied by my mom, where even though our stories are similar for Norbert, that's what makes us our own little family now, our own little tribe that's been touched by someone who's somehow changed us. And isn't that the coolest thing, that now we can choose to say, not only in the past did that leave something with me, but now I can do something in the future. And I don't know, I think that might be a bigger legacy than leaving behind property and riches. It might be a bigger legacy than anything else.
No, I think that's true, completely true. And I've shared that story with quite a few people, and I've seen how it's impacted them, and they've asked questions and even looked in to see who Norbert is. So I believe that he's touched many more lives than we even know.
For sure. Hopefully, Anne has mentioned, if you weren't on to hear it, that she was trying to work with the Smithsonian to see about putting together something that would, Smithsonian isn't in a museum kind of way, but we can all do it as well. So if we can have that, we can point to something for him specifically, but we can also in our own lives give the story of like, hey, there's this guy, and it's how I am this way today. When you get a compliment on you doing that to someone else, or when you notice that you're able to have that impact, or when you want to teach the people in your life that they can do it, because we all are mentoring each other. Really, it's just in what way. Whether we're all leaders, whether we're choosing to be or not, whether we have a title or not. That's just how it's going. So I'll ask again if there's anyone that wants to speak up before I go back to another Norbert video. So I'm watching for the chat. I'm watching for hand raise. Oh, I see you. All right, let me open you up here. Thanks, Bruce. Should be good to open up.
Yeah, I just want to tag on to, I'm sorry, I didn't get the previous speaker's name. But while I was listening to his story, it really, I really related to it. And Norbert had he had a quality that, he wasn't a great musician. He played a beat up guitar that was quite often out of tune. There's many people who could outplay him, but the finest musicians in the world wished they had what Norbert had, and that was that innate ability to connect. And when I was listening to his story, I related it. I thought of some more things that happened to me with Norbert, and I related. He could, what a memory he must have had. I don't think he probably had gifts that he never fully realized. Because of this, I don't. It was just normal and natural to him, and I believe he could have taken that so much further. My regret in life, there was a short time there we communicated through mail. Believe it or not, anybody here know what mail is? But we wrote letters, and he also had kind of the same dream I had. He wanted to make a recording of his stuff, and at the time I was in a band that had its own place to record. So he was all over me wanting to know if I could, is there any way that he could come and record his stuff? But I'm in Los Angeles, he's in San Francisco. And I thought it was, oh, how wonderful that would be. But then it got really bogged down in the minutia of he had no place to stay. I couldn't put him up, and I saw this, what once was a really cool idea, just kind of go, and it hurt me. It really did, that I couldn't do this for him and the world and me. So that's one regret I have in his in our dealings. But just like the previous speaker, and he would just see people and just in his mind would connect with something and know where to go with it. And it was just really fascinating to watch as far as just a human experience. I could keep going.
I will tell you, if it puts your heart at ease, I hope that it does. He did have at some point, even though he wasn't in possession of them when I came around, both from the stories he told, again, not always remembering them on demand, but they would come up because he would have these moments of like wild lucidity and tell all kinds of things that are like, write it down so I can keep track of this stuff so that I can remind him of it at some point. But he did have recordings of himself at some point. And so even though he had a season where he was looking for that, and then, even when, say, Anne, for example, put his music on Bandcamp, because he's of a certain generation and at a certain phase in life, he wasn't on the computer, or even if I came over and showed it to him, it didn't mean the same thing as holding a cassette or a CD or an 8-track or a whatever, a vinyl. It didn't click by the time that we were getting to him. So as much as he would say he wanted it, he also had it on some level, but it just didn't mean the same thing, which is fine. You know what I mean? We all have desires, just like him wanting to be a published author. So he wrote a children's book, and we made that thing happen, even if it is with giant stock images, because now he can say he's a published author. So he did at some point have it. So Bruce, don't carry that too heavy, please. Know that he might have come and gone with what he had physically and material things, but he definitely had that.
No, years and years have gone by, and I've made my peace with it. But it was just a regret that I could not. He showed me so much without even trying, just because I'm who I am and he's who he is, that I just, you see him and you want to give. He gave me this. I want to give something back to him, and I would have loved to have been able to do that, but I was a starving musician at the time, and I couldn't make it happen, and yeah.
I also want to add that he, in the last few months, maybe last 4 months or so, he's been saying he wanted to write about his travels in Europe. And also I said, what about your time in Ghirardelli Square? He goes, yes, I'd like to write that too. So, on my to-do list, if I can get to it, is to try to foster some way in which we can collect these various memories of him that everybody's providing, and put together some kind of volume that documents I think there's a lot more that we remember about him in Ghirardelli Square. I never saw him there, but a lot of people did. But he was really interested in trying to describe what he did in Europe. And in his photo album that Robin has, he has a lot of newspaper articles from these various countries around Europe that wrote about his visit to their town.
Oh, wow.
And I took a few photographs of them, and I'm working on a couple of German ones, and I'm getting them translated. And that's what I'm working on right now, is trying to figure out what he did in Europe and trying to use those articles to understand where he went and what he did. He said German was the language he knew the most about. He could speak it, write it, and he also said he would pick up some translating gigs when he was in San Francisco to earn a little money. But anyway, yes, he was very proud of traveling all over Europe, and he really wanted to write about that. So, but San Francisco too, he really wanted to sort of document his time there. So I'll try to collate what I can if people send me things, and get that into some kind of historical record, document, book, or whatever.
Okay.
I would have liked to have heard more stories about, he was a longshoreman. That's all we know. He was a longshoreman. He worked on the docks. So I'm sure he had a ton of stories from that. He was a martial artist. That's all we know. He's a martial artist, but I'm sure he had a ton of stories there. What did he teach? Did he ever have to use it? Did he, did it help him at the docks? There's so many stories I'm sure he could tell. And then it's like sifting through, what's real. He's just an amazing storyteller. I'm sure he had much more to give that he didn't.
Well, and the beauty is that we can collect those. So as we kind of are entering in the last bit here, thank you. I see you in the comments. Thank you. There are people who have stories that were his students from when he taught martial arts in the park and physical fitness. And so it's just a matter of whether or not they are inspired to, willing to, have the time to, have the technical logistics to contribute, and when, and being patient with people, because we're all going through some kind of challenge at all times. And it just sometimes takes people, which is, I think, one of the advantages of the Facebook page. Why Facebook is not the end all be all. It is the place where generally all generations can get to. And many of the generations that knew him from as early as you could know him can find. So for example, Mark Paulson, who I was mentioning earlier, who he's had, if you find one of the posts where it's talking about martial arts, he'll be down in the comments having a debate with somebody about this boxer and that boxer. And Norbert wasn't into boxing, but he was always in there for the fitness thing. And he was always talking about health and where he trained and who he trained with and other coaches. So there's definitely some, if the desire is there for people to publicly share, it could be put together. And if not, then again, it gets to be that ice cream that you get to have it when you're holding it, and when it's gone, it's gone. And we just get to each appreciate our own ice cream cone, our own sunset, our own whatever. And sometimes it's fun when you have a bucket, and if this bucket is your knowledge of a person, of a place, of a thing, and you only have it half full, the brain is magical. It's not going to leave it half full. So you get to put in whatever you want. And so it kind of makes fun, kind of like when people write a song. Bruce, I think at least you will relate to this. I don't know if any others will. You write based on your intent and your heart, what your things are. But unless you're speaking wildly literally, and even then sometimes there's always the interpretation of the listener. And it gets to be their song, which might mean something. How many songs are about drugs that people turn into, oh, this is about my loved one? And so we get to have our own experience of Norbert too. And if we can fill in some blanks, that can make it fun. I certainly, as I learned different things, gained more and more respect for him as a human. And thank goodness he was always so fun and optimistic, because literally my life would be different if he was a different person. People are like, oh, you should help other people. And I just have to confess, not everyone is a Norbert, and there's only 24 hours in a day. And I would give up
a certain amount of that for him, but I probably wouldn't for everybody. And that's where Jesus still is working on me. So on that, I just want to kind of end where we started and to say, for those who may not have been on earlier, we do have the GoFundMe for Norbert's final expenses. When I first started that, my sister helped me arrange it because frankly, I had to clear out his apartment, you know, the logistics of what you have to do. And of course it wasn't easy because I'm not family. So I'm having to re-show a power of attorney over and over again. And just the logistics took more time than they should. Especially I've done this a few times and somehow Norbert blessed me beyond with a little longer to-do list and timeline than usual. He's worth it, as I just mentioned, so it's no problem. But I recruited some help. So my sister started out. So we started it with like, well, let's estimate some numbers. And the funeral home for like, because the VA, we have a plot. And my understanding is that that is covered, but it's the getting him from passing away into the plot that is the bit that's not covered. And I've been told that there might be some other small expenses that I didn't know about. So we just, once we did get some final numbers, which by the way, we have more than enough to cover the burial processing part. So we might be good. And we might not be, but I'll find out and I'll keep it updated. Anything that is in that goal that is, if it wasn't needed for his final arrangements, the plan is to donate that to City Impact. City Impact is the rescue mission where he was going in at least every Friday and getting a free meal. That's how I met him. I would see him for breakfast. He'd come in and get a bagel. He always had a green tea and a bagel. And that's how we first met. And I got that charming smile and that laugh. And he would be kind of quiet with the people that were I'll say the riffraff of the group. But he would lean into anybody who would take him seriously and who he could jive with. And when we played the music, whether he knew the songs or not, he definitely knew the old hymns and would dig into those. But the more modern music, he didn't always know it. But he would be tapping his leg, sitting in his walker, having a good old time. So he definitely benefited from City Impact. So it feels like the right thing to do to give back to them if there is any excess. So that's where that is. If we find that we'll come up short, I'll let you know. But honestly, I think we're going to be okay. But it's God's hands, literally, because everything I have says that we should be good. But this keeps surprising me, so I don't want to speak too soon and turn away possible help if we need it. So if that's something that you had thought about, don't do it yet. But just watch for the updates if you don't mind, because that would be fantastic. And let's see. And then just to tell you about City Impact, I see you in. Just to say about City Impact for those who weren't on earlier, it's not just a church. They have housing to where they bring in people to do rescue missions in San Francisco. They specifically serve the Tenderloin. They have the only Christian school, and it is zero tuition for any of the students because it's funded by the donations of the church completely. So, and it's right next to the police station right there in the Tenderloin. So right there, Taylor, Warfield, Turk area, that's the little space where they have a thrift store that certain days of the month, if you are in need, you can go in for no cost. The rest of the time, those donations help keep the church moving and keep things happening so that they continue to give at the level that they do. They do on Fridays, they have free breakfast. They close that down after a mini worship service and passing out free breakfast. And then they clean the space out and it turns into social services and a food pantry. And then they close that down. And then at midday, anyone who chooses to actively participate in a Bible study can come in out of the weather or the people that might be on the street and come in and have a snack. And if they're choosing, so long as they actively participate in the Bible study, and that's around midday. And then they'll close that down and clean up and then do a worship service at night, full on church service with free meals. Most of the time it's a takeaway box, but once a month they do a movie and a sit down meal where the guests are treated as though we are all waiters and waitresses, and we serve them their meal at their table. They sit in, they show different movies on a big screen and allow them to enjoy some just luxuries of life in a slower pace that they may not always be able to have because they're on guard constantly. The video that I shared, I will link it on his Facebook page as well, but the video I shared about City Impact, the people that were talking about their experience being served by City Impact were also the same people who were volunteering there when I showed up. So they have not only the turnaround for making an impact in lives one-on-one, they also impact in a way where not only are they on their feet, they're on a feet in a way that they can then be generous with their time, which is, it's a big jump for a lot of people to go from homeless, abuse, drugs to not thinking about food, shelter, clothing, and being able to go past that into serving others. And it's just a wonderful thing. So, and it looked like you had something to say, and then I will close us in a prayer and put on some videos of Norbert to go out until we're done here, until the time runs out.
Yes, I thank you, Robin. I just wanted to mention that 2 obituaries were published yesterday, one in the San Francisco Chronicle and one in the Philadelphia Inquirer. And they're also available at legacy.com. It's actually easier to find them on Legacy. It's very hard. Somehow newspaper search engines are not very good. Bruce was generous enough to help me write the obituary because I did not know much about his time in San Francisco as a performer. So thank you, Bruce, for helping with that. And Robin gave me lots of information about his family and various other details. So it was a group effort. Just wanted to let you know those are out there in case you want to look at them or share it with anybody else.
All right, last call for anything before I put on a Norbert video. All right, I see you, Bruce. I think I got you.
I was debating whether to share this or not because it's very personal, and I'm not sure. Well, I'm just going to. One of the reasons why Norbert Yancey, the man Norbert Yancey, meant so much to me in my soul. And I'm not a real spiritual guy. I'm really not. But this is probably the most spiritual thing that ever happened to me, actually. I wrote the song, and then for years, I had a dream. I wanted to go up there and play my song for him. I mentioned that before. And I got up there, and I had this scenario in my head played out in so many different ways, but it was always in a certain direction that I would go up there and I'd play it for him, and he'd be absolutely gobsmacked, and you know, we'd be brethren forevermore, and it meant so. Anyway, after all these years, my dream came true, and I got up there and I played the song for him, but it didn't go anything like I thought it was going to go in my head. Not that it went bad or anything like that, but instead of sitting down and being mesmerized by my song, I don't even know if he really heard any of it, really heard the words or any of it, because he just jumped right up with his camera, started taking pictures, and hey, come on, talking to other people, and so it was kind of like just a little mini letdown for me. But here's the spiritual part of it. There's a line in the song, and it says, "But Norbert, he had a dream, but he didn't realize the cost. For a dream found is a very sad thing, because it's also a dream lost." And that's what happened. I wrote it in the song long before I ever had that experience of playing it for him. And then I played it for him, and it like came true. So I know that's very personal, and it really doesn't add much to the goings on, but I just had to express that. And I didn't, that was not a negative for me. It turns out it was a positive, because Norbert was being Norbert. And so I played the song, and there was that dream, and it's lost now. Time to move on to another dream, you know? So yeah, I just wanted to mention that. And that was the spiritual thing, because I wrote this line and then it happened, you know, and it anyway. Robin, thank you so much for doing this. You're a special person, and you did this for a special human being. the likes of which I've never seen before, I'll never see again. And I wish you best of luck with all that you're doing for him. And Ann, I love you. If you need anything from me, I don't know what the hell I can offer, but feel free to get in touch with me at any time. I appreciate y'all.
All right. Last words, anyone? Pop on a Norbert video. I'm gonna start with just praying us out the same way we started in, because whatever you choose to believe, I know what Norbert believed. He was very open with it over the years. Slowly at first. I think that's kind of not unusual when someone does have a level of faith that you never know, especially somebody who does it for a living. You have to kind of protect yourself and keep the money coming in, frankly. And whether that's right or wrong, that's just how it sometimes has to be in order to continue to make it work in a worldly way. But I still can't possibly explain the difference between him slowly sharing his own faith and his own beliefs. Of course, he knew mine, because I became a Christian and within a month was in a rescue mission, and within 6 months in South Africa. So he knew where I stood pretty clearly. I was so excited I couldn't shut up about it. But he slowly shared his, and the last couple years he would share his faith, but in a way that was like childlike. And what I mean by that is like asking questions, like looking for that affirmation, which makes you wonder, was he thinking about his own mortality? And I can't imagine Norbert thinking anything other than the glory of heaven when he thought about his mortality, because he was such an optimist. But you never know if he had any level of fear. He gave himself peace he would ask the question, he died for my sins, right? And he would ask the questions that we learn all the way from kids' stories, if you're somebody that's around that, or if you do any kind of in-depth theological studies, if you happen to believe in the Bible and what Jesus Christ says. So I don't know. It seems like he's a spiritual man with how he interacted with us. It seemed like as I sought out the business coaches that were Christian and had a higher level of integrity, that maybe some of my attraction to this optimistic, amazing, hat-having laughter was more than just the physical person of Norbert. And maybe it was his heart that was so generous to all of us in a way that was otherworldly and literally like the love of Christ. So Father, I come to you right now, and I just thank you. I thank you for a lovely time to share in Norbert. I know that others couldn't be here, so many that wanted to be. I know the time zone thing is crazy, but I pray that you continue to unite us in the spirit of not only Norbert, but of you and of pure love and of acting that love out. We all have our moments where our humanity creeps up and our words slip. Our heart's motivation is a little selfish, but I know that you cover it all. And I know that you can connect us in a way that is truthful and fun and filled with joy. And I ask that in the legacy of Norbert Yancey, that you would continue that. Utilize us individually in our own lives and everywhere that we go. Those who are present today, those who might see it or hear it, or those who can't be here and never hear it, I know that your word goes well beyond my ask, and that you can do so much more than I could even imagine to articulate to you, Lord. Thank you for all you are, for who your son Jesus Christ is, what you did on the cross, and for the empowerment of the Holy Spirit in each of us to live a little bit more like Norbert and like you. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Feel free to pop on and off as you see fit. I'm just gonna put on some Norbert videos and let it run until it stops. So please enjoy. Don't act like you don't like being on camera.
No, you're a real humdinger.
I may be the humdinger, but you're the rhyming singer. So figure out how to open your package.
Norbert, sing whatever you want. Sing your phone one. Oh.
Let me see.
I'm getting serious now. Now I might be in trouble. Stop the recording. No evidence, please.
Robin, oh Robin, we knew each other for a long time. I want to say that this is mine. I know I walked the line, thinking of something for a long time. There she goes, with a flat shoe. I'm sitting here, but I don't drink booze. I'll tell you the latest news. Let's take a ride down to Santa Cruz.
Yeah.
Have you heard this? Mein Vater I want this man when he steps out in blue. Rumba, Porqua, la vie, dis-moi, pourquoi la vie est gaie. Dis-moi, pourquoi mademoiselle, est-ce que come and chant and somehow you'll know even then. And somewhere you'll find them again. Once you have found them, never let them go. Once you have found them, never let them. I like it.
Tell people.
Thank you very much for your interest and encouragement and all the things good. And I thank you. Take care. Be good. Thank you, Mark Paulson. The dinner was delicious. And I thank you for the funds. I appreciate it very much. And I hope you have a nice day. Take care, stay safe, stay healthy.
gray. It's like think about that.
What?
Blue and gray.
That's sort of like the purple tinge.
Okay, it's good now.
I know. You're on target.
Where are we?
On target. Oh, and I sang this to those Russian ladies.
Okay, I have a question.
Right.
So that song's from New Zealand. When did you hear about it? Like, how did you find out about that song?
Oh, I heard it a long time ago from somebody from there.
Was it when you were traveling or locally here in San Francisco?
No, it's locally here in San Francisco. Why?
So why are
Well, you know me. That could be a pink slip.
That is the last of the videos. So like I said, I'll just put this on now the photos. I don't think we got all the way through those slides, so I'll just let them play out. Thank you guys. I really appreciate you. Don't let this be the end. there. Thank you for watching that play out. If you're able to unmute yourself, welcome to. If you do not want to share, you certainly don't have to.
Hi, I could share a memory of Mr. Yancey.
Oh, yay. I would love that.
I am 49 years old now, but I remember growing up and seeing him outside of Ghirardelli Square, and he was such a memory. We averaged going to the city probably twice a month for most of my childhood, and he was always there and always happy and shiny and smiley. And when I had kids, I went looking for him and didn't see him because I wanted to hit my kids to experience Mr. Yancey also. But my mom told me to Google him and see if I could find him, and I thought she was crazy, but I actually did. And I've been following on Facebook for the last year or so. So it's nice to have the new memories. And thank you for putting this together. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for sharing. It's fun to hear. I mean, he had such a huge life. So it's so fun to hear from everyone. I do know that a great number of people that he was important to and that were important to him that I know of, much less the number of people that that's also true for that I don't know of, are interested
Yeah.
in something where we can schedule it out a little bit, or maybe even something in person. Definitely something that fits more of a West Coast timeline, because that is where most of his, not everyone, but a lot of his people are. And I would love that. The reason I chose today and did it the way I did, I was trying desperately to figure out a time zone that would try and keep free the midnight to like 3 or 4 a.m. kind of vibe, but still hit where I at least knew that he had connections that might like to engage here. So I just did the timing that way. And then also I kind of did it a little quicker than I would have preferred as far as organizing something, because I just didn't want the wind to come out of his sail. You know what I mean? When we're out of sight, out of mind, and we all have busy lives, I just didn't want it to fizzle out before we got the opportunity to come together, those that could share about him. So I don't know, I definitely can't do it by myself, but if there's an effort and some coordination among us, if you're on that Facebook page, I would say please stay there and stay engaged. Maybe we can do something that's different timing and that we could put on our calendars and that would be a little more official than what today was. I just didn't want to I didn't want to have time go and then this not happen, you know. Better to have two than to have none.
Is my volume still on?
Yeah, I hear you now.
Okay, sorry.
Thank you for popping on today, and I look forward to seeing you on Facebook for at least a little while and seeing if we can put something together for a future date as well.
Wonderful.
Awesome. Thank you. I hope you have a good day, and I hope God blesses you today.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.